And it is episode 27 of Around the Mage Table. Welcome back, everyone. This episode is coming out on Halloween, so I hope everyone's having a wonderful Halloween. There's a ton of news, but before we get to that, I want to say hi to all my co-hosts. So, Shani, how are you doing today?
I am lovely today.
Cool. Scrap, what about you?
Doing good. The weather's getting cooler. It's nice.
Oh, favorite time of year. And Old Man Technique, how you doing?
Mm-hmm. I'm sleepy. I didn't get my nap. I worked a lot, and I'm still feeling old and elderly, and all the other things you mean viewers keep calling me.
It's heartbreaking that because like you have a little silver, you have a little salt and pepper going on up there, and they just.
It's okay. I get as many compliments in the real world.
Salt and pepper in my beard, and Shawnee keeps telling us he's like 68, and no one notices it. So
I'm the oldest one out of the four of us, so I love that they call Technique the old one.
Of course, they didn't really say my name. They just said the elderly man. It could have been you, Shawnee. Who knows?
Yeah, we all just assumed it, and no one challenged it. So,
yeah.
I'm a little under the weather today, so my throat might go, my voice might go, and my coughs might come up. I'm sorry, but I'll just try to power through it. But I did want to ask everyone, Scrap, you said you're working tomorrow, so you don't have a costume for tomorrow? You're not gonna be anything?
No, I'm gonna wear something tomorrow to work, but
but you don't know.
No, I have it together.
Oh, what is it?
Oh, dude, I'm being a witch. I'm just being the laziest I can possibly be. I have a dress. I have a hat. I'm tired. I have to work tomorrow.
All right. Technique, what are you going to be tomorrow?
Be tired and old again.
No.
I don't have a plan. I gotta work.
I wanted Technique to buy like some really old people looking glasses and wear
First
them.
of all, you linked old people glasses for women to me. It's specifically
they were the glasses that Jiminy Glick wears in his skits, and they're the perfect, square, massive. Who cares? Yeah. Women. What?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, Shani, how about you?
Really getting to him.
Who cares? What side of the fence are you on, Frank?
I'm gonna dress up as an American tattoo artist tomorrow instead of a Canadian one.
What does that entail? So we obviously expect you to have a lot of
same exact thing. Yeah, same exact stuff I wear every day. But that's what I'm gonna say I am.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of news to go over, so let's go on and jump straight into it. So first and foremost, last week we talked a lot about 11.0.5 coming out. There were a ton of hotfixes, a ton of bugs. So we recorded that on Wednesday of last week. I don't think we fully understood the damage that was happening with bugs. Does anyone remember anything that stood out to them that you thought, well, that's wild?
The rogue thing?
Yeah. So can you give us some context? What happened with rogues?
I'm not entirely sure, but I know that it was outlaw rogues, correct? Yeah, outlaw rogues. Somehow they were getting to spend 10 combat points instead of 5. I don't know. Shiny knows more about rogues than I do.
Yeah, but I didn't look into the bug because I didn't want to be tempted to play it.
Okay, go read it.
Back.
My understanding of it. Sorry, Technique.
Let's just say, like I think you use an ability on a creature, like on a critter, and it procs something. And then you're able to get, like Scrap said, extra combo points, and like all your abilities for a set period of time do like 10 points worth of damage instead of 5 or whatever. Something like that.
I think
we're doing clearly like wild damage.
You could build your combo points, and then once you, I think, switched from one hero talent to the other, your combo points would be permanently set at max, and so you just constantly be executing nonstop, right?
I wonder how did they figure it out so fast? Because I feel like people were exploiting it on Tuesday. Yeah. Like it's kind of crazy.
Well, I think it's one of those things that if you were like the only person to say, okay, 11.0.5 came out, and you like switched your hero talent and noticed that your combo points aren't going away, that's when they're like, oh hell yeah. And then of course it's the person in the high-end guild that happens to tell everyone, and it just spreads like wildfire.
If that happened to me, Frank, I would keep that shit to myself.
I don't think it would also happen to only one person, right? Yeah.
I know, but I'd be like, I don't know why I made damage. I go in the Discord and be like, everybody shut your fucking mouth. Like, everybody keep it down. Don't want this spread around.
Here's the interesting thing. Apparently, they are taking action against some of these people. Now, I think that's because they were able to time certain keys and kill certain like mythic bosses.
Oh.
Because they're doing like effectively the DPS of 2 to 3 players in a single go. But I haven't heard of any when they say actions. I don't know if that means bans or if it's just like they reverted everything. So if anyone has,
if they do that, they should like I don't know what they're planning on doing, but like for example, if a team timed like an 18 and they just like took the points away from the outlaw rogue, they should take it away from everybody on that team.
They'd invalidate the whole
just,
key.
Yeah, invalidate the whole key.
They're gonna, from what I understand, they're removing the exploited runs, so the whole run's gone. So I think everyone would lose their points.
Now I'm wondering if an outlaw rogue who's like 585 or something did like a 10, are they taking those runs away, or are they just taking the silly ones away?
From what they're saying is they're taking all clearly exploited runs away.
I wonder if they have like a webhook or whatever of some sort to be able to determine like they were using that.
Now Roar was saying some rogues and their groups that were like very clearly exploiting were getting bans.
So, I mean, they say actions and they're abusers. So like this is, I guess, a terms of service issue, which is a little surprising. I wouldn't have thought that they'd go that.
I don't know. When you reach the point where it's like, hey guys, like, look, if I can do like 4 million DPS, man, we can go push like a 14. Like, dude, you deserve to get banned, and everybody in your party too, because it's not like they didn't know it.
But that was done. This was reverted like day one of the patch, right? There was some other things going on. So what else? Is anyone?
Something about shamans were crying about something. I can't remember.
So elemental shamans came out of the gate spicy hot, right? And
not outlaw rogue hot, but spicy hot.
No, not that hot. Yeah, this was like working as intended hot.
Working as intended. Yeah.
And Scrap, you lost a couple of cat fights in your week. Is that right?
Not that many.
How many attempted cat fights did you win versus?
There were quite I mean, I was bringing LA Shamans into my keys because I wanted to see one go crazy, and nobody was like legs above. But again, they did hotfix LA Shaman after like a couple days so that it wasn't as gnarly broken, and I think I missed the first 2 days where it was crazy.
Yeah. But there were some other classes that got worked on, including some bug fixes. Now, the common consensus amongst a lot of the high-end players is this is one of the worst patches to go live with the amount of bugs it has. Now, I haven't played a lot of classes, so I can't really say much on this, but I don't feel that way. Now, granted, Mage, not terribly buggy. Paladin, not terribly buggy.
Here's what I think they're probably referring to. I can't think of in recent memory a class being so bugged they had to hotfix it on day 1 or 2. And I don't remember anything like this where it's like, oh, one class, they literally like rogues can get twice as many combo points. I mean, that's significantly broken. Like but that's just one. You messed up a lot. Yeah, but I think it's not like the amount of bugs, but it's just like the outlandishness of bugs, maybe.
Well, and the rogue one is just like, I think it's just you don't know it's going to be a problem until it's a problem, right? And the PTR is up, but like. Again, people may have, because you said, how did they figure this out on day 1? They may have known this on PTR and just didn't say anything.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they did.
But like that's just something that the devs won't know until they know. I'm sure they didn't. If they'd known about, they wouldn't have let it go into live, right? That's just I have to assume positive intent there. Whereas the elemental stuff that was going on was the word I'm going to use is sloppy, right? I think I feel like this has definitely been a sloppy patch. Even though it hasn't been unplayable, but I'm going to kind of jump ahead here. Where is it?
I mean, we talked about that extensively last week, that like, why are people like shitting on this patch so much? It's because of repeated sloppiness, like that we're losing trust in the developer. And we feel more and more like, hey, this stuff is not working as intended. Like, and it's this like sloppiness over and over again that makes people increasingly lose trust in their development. So next patch, I mean, everybody's gonna be scrutinizing it really hard, because they don't want it. They want it to work.
Well, and we have a story we'll talk about at the end of the news section, which really threw a wrench into the credibility. But we'll get to that in a second. However, yes, I mean, so we actually in last week's episode said, "Oh, I'm sure these bugs," and the one we were specifically referring to is the one on the Silken Court where the the spikes came up and hit like half our raid. And so, like I said, I'm sure they've fixed it. They don't. It was not fixed as of yesterday. We didn't have any of these problems. There's the last 4 bosses are called out for having issues. Now, we did Blood Twister Ovanax, and we actually killed him a lot faster than I thought we would. But maybe it wasn't that we killed him faster. Maybe it was just that he was sitting AFK and we were just beating on him for a good while he transitioned to the second canister. Apparently he can sit up to 40 seconds and just like let people wail on him for that long. So maybe that's
he
just
didn't do that, man.
No? Okay.
No.
If that happens, I mean, do you think people
40
killing
seconds?
that boss is exploiting it? Like,
Oh,
do you
that's a
think people
bug.
should
That's
be
not an
punished for
exploit.
that?
No, that's because they can't trigger it, right? Triggering it would
Yeah.
be making it an exploit, right?
Okay.
Princess, what's her name? Kaiveza, is that her
Just
name?
princess. Yeah.
She apparently can like double stack the massacre charges, which could kill people.
Oof.
Or no, that's yeah, that's that, and as well as apparently the lines in the intermission. And then Queen Ansurek. Now, we didn't see this, but they did make changes to Queen Ansurek, which will be actually I'll go on and talk about that right now. So they nerfed her, and we killed Queen Ansurek last week. So last Thursday we killed her and got our
Yeah,
AOTC.
we did before it was hard. I mean, before it was easy.
But this week they made some changes. I thought these were very, very heavy changes because it's heroic nerfing, which I didn't think heroic necessarily needed nerfing. But Webblade's down to 3 from 4. The Silken Tombs, they removed one of the final cycles in the last sets, which was very nice of quality of life change. And then some of the timing was changed. Grasping Silk, which is I think when you get rooted, is reduced by 25%. And then Gloom Blast on phase 2 was reduced by 15%. We re-cleared it this week, fairly easy. In fact, we had to bring some of the, or we didn't have to, we brought some of the bench people back that we asked to sit out while we were trying to get AOTC. And I think 3 pulls and we had it done. Never mind Scrap showing up to raid late and then jumping into a key immediately after. But that's neither here nor there. So anyways, back to 11.0.5 and the chaos behind it. Like, yeah, I mean, last week I was trying to play devil's advocate on all this, but this is sloppy and it doesn't bode well, it doesn't look good. On top of that, we really didn't get much content that a lot of people care for. Do you guys really care about the 20th anniversary event?
I've been doing it on the side, but there's nothing really particularly fun or exciting about it. I don't know. I'm gonna get the transmog, but I've pretty much have been handed it just by doing a couple of quests and doing the raid. So
yeah. I don't want to say I don't care about it, but it definitely falls under. I'm glad that people like it, even if I'm not super interacting with it.
Well, do people like it though?
I mean, I know a few people that seem pretty excited about it.
I think. Yeah, sorry, Shawnee.
No, I don't talk to everyone under the sun, but like the people I've talked to, there's definitely, I'd say it's like 50-50 for people who've been like, oh, this is good, they're doing it, whatever.
Well, I want to separate because I think people universally like the rewards. Like everybody loves the tier sets, how they look.
Yes.
But I don't know. We haven't done Blackrock Depths, so I think that's kind of the meat of it, and we haven't tried it, and we're gonna try it next week, right? So
yeah,
right.
We can give a better, assessment because I think that, like, honestly, the side quests and the Mount Mania and the Dress to Impress thing. I mean, I was sick of that about 5 minutes in.
Okay, I was gonna say, did you try it?
Yeah, I did it. I was trying to desperately finish my Traveler's Log because I did not. All I've been doing is keys. So I took a try of that stuff, and it wasn't that fun a gimmick to me, especially when I don't have a lot of mounts, so I felt really shitty. So I'm not doing Mount Mania.
All right. Anyone else? We'll talk about this more in a second, but yeah, go on, Ticky.
I think it's a great idea, and I'm glad that they did something. And I was like you said, I think the rewards, everybody wants a piece of that. I know they changed apparently so I just started it yesterday, and it was not that difficult to get. I got the first piece of tier or the first set of tier in like a couple of hours, but that couple of hours was like the most exhausting quest line stuff I've ever done. It's just like boring as fuck. Go around and use this fucking finder to go and get some things that you don't see unless you got the finder toy on. Travel here, do this and that. The PvP thing, it was cool to like go back and do some PvP, some old school, AV. That was all right. I wish they would do more of that. Like, hey, go and do some of this shit you used to do that you once did in a place you used to play in. More of that. Less of the wander around and find dumb shit.
Yeah,
Well-
I agree with Technique because I did that quest, and when I was looking, I was like, okay, what's the quest? I want to do the quest, like the story quest or whatever. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like I thought this would have been a really good opportunity to like refresh, like, hey, here are like some of the main players like throughout time or something. Like, I mean, Caverns of Time has had some really fucking cool dungeons. I was picturing something more like that than wander around Tanaris in these like really old looking ruins that look like shit and use a toy that barely works.
Did any of you do the Chromie event?
Yep.
The opening of the Ahn'Qiraj gates?
Yeah, where you like you go to each area and people aren't supposed to be there. She's like, these people don't belong here. We got to reset time.
But like,
yeah, that was more like what I was picturing. But
like that wasn't the opening of the Ahn'Qiraj gates. It was just like, I mean, there was one point where like it said heroes. You had to like pose as the heroes of
Yeah.
and I didn't understand. Like, I assumed I defined the mage one as
oh god, that was confusing.
I just ran to a circle.
like,
so did everyone else.
But
everyone
like,
else has to do it too.
Made it look like I had to do the spell that they were doing too. And when I did it, like my circle didn't disappear. I was like, oh, I guess I didn't get credit for that. So I didn't have a clue what was going on there.
Yeah, it feels a little bit. They put a lot of work into the tier sets. That's cool, but I feel like the event feels a little bit. It's not worthy of a 20th anniversary, especially from all the hype. I feel like there's a lot of hype. So I don't know.
I feel like this is a better anniversary event than they've done in the past.
Yeah, I was going to try to compare it, but we'll get back to the anniversary event in a minute. Let's go ahead and wrap up 11.0.5's launch. Now, I want to take a quick second and look at the stats. So this was last week's stats, and you can see Enhancement actually overtook Elemental by the end of the week. But, excuse me.
Look at
Arcane is dead.
There.
Unbelievable.
Arcane's dead.
Look how much sub rogue climb from like below Og to middle.
Well, look how much Beast Mastery. We talked about this last week, right? Big buff to Beast Mastery.
Yeah.
At C tier. I don't really like these tier systems because they don't really, I think, tell the right story. But I said this last week, Prop Paladin doing tons of damage. I didn't realize how much Sacred Weapon was doing, and I tested that out last night. I was very interested in that. But I also want to show this real quick.
Oh, so look at Survival Scrap.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
this is the meta representation. Pumping. And you would think... okay, here's the question, because this is what I saw in the comments from last week the most that I didn't really have an answer to. So season 1 is full in swing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the devs is it a good idea or a bad idea for them to alter the meta? And they also actually altered some other things as well that we'll get to in a second. But do you think it's okay for them to alter the meta in the middle of the season?
No.
So you say let it be?
I would say only because I say no for like the player standpoint. For their standpoint, I would, because it means people will play that chase it. But like if you started out and you were meta and you're playing, if you're like a person who only wants to play one thing, you're like, yay, I'm meta. And if you're not and you've worked hard to get up, you're like, yay, I'm up. So for like a personal standpoint, if they came and changed Ret and it was dumpster, I'd be disappointed. I'd be like, what I do to deserve to be like annihilated, right?
I don't think they dumpstered any class though.
But if they
no, but I mean, as an arcane mage, as an arcane mage, I definitely feel like I've fallen behind.
But if they went in like for their side, sure, change meta all you want from their standpoint, because that means if someone's like, I'm kind of maxed out, like, oh, this new class is meta, I'm gonna use it now, whatever.
Well,
so
I mean, I definitely don't mind Flavor of the Month chasers being punished personally. Is that healthy for the game? I don't know.
but none of us are those people.
I know. Just to clarify that top bar is this past week, right?
No, this top bar now is this week. So this is as of like,
Look how fucking balanced it is. I think that's good. It's healthy for the game.
This week.
I think this is because
2 days of it.
Well, yeah, not even. This is probably like a day and a half, right? But like the thing is I think this is the part of the week where everyone is like flowing into the keys and they're like all getting their 10s done. Whereas as the week progresses, that's because look, so the average key so far this week is a 9.6, right? They were doing 13.9 averages from the top 2,000 keys last week. So the pushers haven't started pushing yet. That's what I read from this.
They push at the end of the week.
They're probably raiding.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm interested. Oh, okay. True. I'm interested to see how it balances out to the end of the week because I mean, from what I've seen, they're attempting to balance it, right? Like they're seeing these classes are being overplayed and
this is
overperforming.
better.
Yeah, and the LA Shaman was bugged, and I think got a lot of hype because of some of the videos I saw on TikTok. But like, I think it's better, man. It's better. I don't know why just because like they're nerfing these classes that are top performing. I mean, be reasonable. Like they shouldn't be outperforming significantly other classes.
So
They
just
should be closer.
You should just bring everyone up to them. Then bringing someone down has always been my theory.
I think they're meeting in the middle. Like some classes go down a little bit, some classes get bumped up a little bit. You know, as opposed to like, okay, everybody at the bottom gets thrown up to the top. Like
Arcane didn't get nerfed, so they were like, you know, people were they got a little nerfed, but like tiny nerf.
Well, here's what I think, Frank, is people have had enough arcane mages in their keys and they're sick of them.
Maybe that could be a meta in and of itself.
I think it's I think that's what's happening.
I think at least at like the lower key level and the mid key level, it's also important to keep, like, it doesn't matter so much like the number of classes that are being played, because like, you know, the S tier classes can carry all sorts of alts and shit through. I know that. So this is just the top 2,000 M plus keys.
Yeah, but if I go to here, so this is something that Raider.io does, their data dive, and so every week they'll look at the key progression, and so you can see. So this is like, you know, they have 2 to 6 broken. These are the most common combinations of classes. You know, so 72 instances of keys between 2 and 6, and Prot Warrior, Resto Shaman, Assassin Rogue Ret, and Elemental Shaman were the most popular combination. Huh. But if we look up the week 6, so this is week 6, 12 and ups, the most common, which is 184 keys, were done with a Prot Warrior, Resto Shaman, Frost DK, Enhance, and Og. So really, Enhance just replaced Arcane /
I love the idea of having Enhance, because Enhances and Og are working with the Frost DK and the Prot Warrior, making them do crazy banana damage, right?
And the Resto Shaman's already bringing that, right? Because the Enhancement Shaman has the same buff as the Resto Shaman now.
Yeah, the Enhance doesn't add anything, the Shaman doesn't. So
other than having insane DPS right now.
Yeah, other than their own individual contribution, they're not adding anything the Resto
I'm surprised to see Disc Priest so high. That's kind of hype.
So that goes back to this right here, right? They got a buff. So this right here is called the Ginny coefficient. And essentially it's like, if it's 1,000, it's bad. If it's 0, it's good, right? And you can see that while we were sitting here going, well, that does look a little more diverse. The truth is, it's only a little bit more diverse for like the DPS. Tank actually got worse.
One looks good.
Healers got better because Restos seems to be diminishing, right?
Shrunk a little bit, but it's still pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, healers were really bad, and they got a little bit better, but they're still the worst of the 3. There's probably a whole lot of math that goes into this that makes more sense if you just see it, but the truth is like it doesn't look that much better.
See, what I like that they did is they did green is good and red is bad, so all I have to see is that. Yeah.
But, you know, Prot Paladins are now sneaking in with the changes they had, which is good. I'm enjoying Prot. I've been playing it a lot more lately. And yeah, Disc, but Frost DK still dominant, which
all the way across. Resto Shaman.
After the and again, I say nerfs, it wasn't really that big of a nerf, but I haven't seen that many good Frost DKs and keys. Now, granted, I haven't run a ton of keys with Frost DK, but when I have, it hasn't gone well, which is a reverse of what I said last week. But yeah, Elemental Enhancement going in there. And here's the overall number. So you still see fucking Balanced Druids, goddamn. You still see Prot Warrior, Resto Shaman, and Frost DK with the most of the combination, but and actually we can go look at this really quickly, what the highest keys are right now. I'll run leaderboards, here we go. So the top
I love these charts.
Is going into Prot. So like the top, you know, Yoda's playing Prot right now. There's a couple warriors in there. All Disc at the top right now, and they're timing 17s, so that's like some news.
Ooh, 17s.
But Enhancement Shaman and Frost DK are still the, you know, the meta now.
And Og,
yeah. Well, I assumed. So yeah, like, I mean, was the meta really shook up? I don't know. A little bit, but not a lot.
Well, I'd say on the healer and tank side it was.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Like, definitely healer tank. Like, it was just brown for Prot Warriors.
I think making Enhancement and Elemental stronger gave room for a different healer to come into play. Because
I hope so.
All right, well, let's put a bow on that and move on to to the 20th event, 20th anniversary event that I just want to put a period on that too. This is another contentious point that people were having going into last week, coming into this week, was the bronze tokens being such a low generation. I think someone said you need like, I don't want to butcher this, but like 720 bronze tokens to get everything you
get
want.
All the sets.
I think that might not be true. Don't hold me to it. But people were getting really upset because Blizzard was time gating it, right?
Yeah.
Old habits die hard. They have buffed significantly. I think it's upwards of 400% more tokens now dropping. And the question just like lands like, okay, so Blizzard, we told you on the PTR that these token generations were not enough. And I know that for sure because I think I saw Soul and Mr. GM on Twitter talking about this, saying like, yo, this is going to take the whole time of farming to get to it. And as Technique pointed out earlier, it's not that much fun farming. So I just, I'm looking for y'all's feedback here. Like, do you think they screwed this up pretty badly?
Well, Frank, I think most people don't want all the sets, right? Like, I'm gonna get
the
like
average player,
3 maybe.
I
Yeah,
get my warrior set, which I did, and I'm done. Fuck all that.
Yeah, I think
But I realize that's not
probably
that's two sides.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like most people just want the sets for their, the 3 characters they play. They don't want all of them. So, I don't know. I thought it was a little bit slow, but I was like, I don't really want to work for it. If you're a weekly raider, you're getting 15 a week, then you get to do like a world boss. I thought it was fine, but that's just me. And I'm not a collector, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if okay, let's say it's 700 just for the sake of argument, and this goes till I think January 6th. We've got now what would be, I'm going to say 10 weeks. I know that might not be right, but 10 weeks. And if you had to do 70 or 700, that'd be 70 a week you have to get, which at the time, I think the max you could get was like 62.
Can you do multiple difficulties of Queen Anseric to get 15 on
maybe.
LFR normal and
well,
heroic?
this is the buffed amount, remember. This is the buffed amount. So this is the new number.
Can you do it on each difficulty?
I don't know, Frank. If this event runs to January 6th, I think that, like, if you go to that area and January 1st, there's going to be nobody fucking there except for, like, 2 sweaty mount collectors. And I think that would be the case even if they hadn't nerfed it.
Yeah.
So it's not a non-issue, is what you're saying.
For me, a non-issue, because I think, I recognize that the people who want to collect everything are very serious about it. But I don't think, I think if you want to collect everything, it's going to be some work, and you're going to have to work for it. I don't know. I'm happy with it either way. I'm happy that I don't have to do it as much to get like the 2 sets I want, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessary because, like I said, even if they hadn't nerfed it, the last week of this, it's going to be a ghost town because everybody's done.
Yeah. Okay.
I think, like, there's a lot of people that are still spending a lot of time pushing toward their other goals in the game. So, and of course, you can't really control when the 20th anniversary comes out. It pretty much happens at the 20th
It just
anniversary.
happens, yeah. I'm happy it's going to January because I don't feel any pressure this week to like really mess with it. Like I messed with it like a bit last week, but I'm like, yeah, it's gonna be here. So I'm not worried.
I think whatever they did, like where it's at now, was enough effort and probably not too much or too little. I think it was pretty good for me to want to get mine done. When I started it, I was like, this is going to take too long. And then I realized, like, oh, okay, there's some like regular quests I can go and do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fine.
My problem with these events is that I feel like there's so much noise. I don't even say so much going on because I don't really truly believe that. But there's so much noise that I got to the event and I didn't know where the mount off was versus, Chen's story time corner. Now, granted, it didn't take too much for me to figure that out. And, arguably that's what an MMO is about, is like, looking around and figuring it out.
Go look.
But like I did I was trying to do the achievement to get the mount, which is like you have to do, 1 mount off and 1, I think. So one of them is like you have to like dress up like a pet and visit some area. I haven't the faintest clue on how to do that. And I've looked around for that. But then I had to do the Chen storytime thing.
What you got to do for that one, buddy? You need to go talk to the person that does the pet greeting or whatever, and then reset your little finder doodad toy, and then go to the coordinates.
I don't even know what that means. Um,
Can you write that down and send it to
Read
me
it.
yeah,
so I can do it later?
we'll write a guide for Wowhead on that one. But hold
Yeah,
on.
Wowhead,
So I like another part of the achievement is I have to go to Chen's story time and like react to 50 things, I think it is. And
Oh my
I sat
God.
I sat there for like 15 minutes, what felt maybe even more. And the story finally came up, and I'm like, okay, I'm listening to it. Drawn out story about Thalician, the guy, I guess the head of the Death Knight army that, you know, stormed whatever. And there was only 2 opportunities to react in that 15-minute window. I was like, fuck this. No, thank you.
Well, Frank, what's the mount? Is it cool?
It's like a blue, I think it's a recolor of like a firebird, but it's like a bluebird.
It could be cool.
It looks good. It looks good. I was like, well, I'm here. Why not do it, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, like I guess I just it's not.
You know what, Frank? It's okay to say it's not for us. I'm really curious
was
if people in
about
the
to say, like-
comments. Yeah, like, is this for you? Is this
That-
for anybody? Is
that
anybody
was
loving
content.
this?
Is not for our type of player. Like, we want to get in, achieve something, get the reward, and like go do something different.
But
Or
the
just
buff
do
is a
that same
non-issue
thing
for y'all,
again.
Johnny.
Yeah, I don't. It doesn't make a difference to me, really. Like, I might try to go get the sets. I might not. I don't know. It's one of the things where, like, I'm happy people like it, but I don't. I'm not sitting here thinking like, oh, I should do that later today.
Do you think it was not a good look for them? Because again, we're kind of talking about like Blizzard's bad week here. That they changed the token acquisition 1 week into it instead of, you know, they heard the feedback on the PTR. I think that was clear. Why did they decide to do it 1 week into it?
A part of me is like, I wouldn't have changed it and just left it anyway. If people were like, it's slow to get, I'd be like, well, it doesn't take long to do each week. So it's slow to get IO. It's slow to get through.
Some of them you
cutting
do
edge.
just by doing your regular activities.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like
As
a part
soon
of me is
as-
like, you know, if it's slow, I don't know. I play a lot of games where stuff is achievable but slow, right? Like even in WoW right now, to get some stupid mount, I have to kill people in the spider place or whatever the spiders, and I'm like at 700 or 1500, and I keep forgetting I even have the quest. So I'm like, falls into like, I'll get it done when I get it done. Thing goes till January. I would probably
Also,
leave it slowish going
As
till
soon as
then
Scrap-
anyway.
As soon as Scrap said, hey, it goes until January, I was like, oh, they didn't need to nerf it, dude. I got my one
Yeah.
tier set in one fucking day of minimal effort. Like, come on.
Before
have
the nerf.
3 months?
Well, let's talk
To
about
do
some other questionable decisions. Now,
Sure.
I think for us this is a good news, but there are some unintended consequences. So I'll get to that in a second. But let's first review the news. Challenger's Peril, which has been, I think, mostly not liked. For those who don't
I
know,
like
that-
it, but I'm built different. so-
Challenger's Peril moves the death penalty from 5 seconds to 15 seconds in 7 or higher keys. Well, there's been a lot of feedback on this. I think we actually may have even talked about this for a second, but a lot of people were saying, well, they should give us a couple of deaths for free
Yeah.
to start. What they did instead was they added 90 seconds to all the keys that would be affected by Challenger's Peril. So there's an unintended consequence here that I want to talk about, but I first want to get y'all's gut reaction on this. Technique,
So
you seem violently
Oh, yeah, go
angry
ahead.
about this.
Why not just like give you 6 deaths for free?
Good
That's
question.
basically what it is.
Well,
It is.
yeah, but
But it's basically not, because this is the easiest. I think what they did is they took the easiest route to that solution.
I'm wondering if the programming was difficult and this was easier to just like slide the timers back up. Like if it was
This
maybe
is the
too
lazy
buggy.
option. This
Yeah.
is the because it would have been a
I don't
little
see how
bit,
it's
but it wouldn't have
effectively
been a
any
lot. You know?
different. It's fine.
So here's the wrinkle that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. It is now easier to +2 keys.
I was going to
Oh,
say it does
true.
make it different because now there's, like you said, more time, and for those people that aren't wiping at all,
Mm-hmm.
it's easier. But for those people that were dying 6 times, like, yeah, it's the same. But for those people that didn't
So-
die, it's
So
just
the people
easier.
who are doing
You're right,
17s
you're right.
right now and mists, right? They're not
should be
doing it
less
because they're playing
punishing,
any
not-
more perfectly. They're doing it because they have 90 more seconds on the clock.
They
that.
genuinely need to reevaluate and readjust timers. I know they don't often do that. Like I remember when Shadow Moon Valley or what is it? Shadow Moon Burial Ground was in it. Like that key was we looked at like how many keys we timed, and it's like every Shadow Moon Burial ground we did was a +2, and they never.
They gotta do shit like that in beta. You can't go and change the times.
Well, they've done that before. They've adjusted timers before. They're very reluctant to do that. But the fact that like Arakara and Mists are so easy to +2, like the timers are so cushy, and Siege even, like it's silly when like there's timers like Necrotic Wake that are so tight. Like, so this, that I wasn't even thinking about it like that. Oh yeah, like if you don't wipe, you have fucking way more time. Yeah.
We almost +3'd my Dawnbreaker 11 today.
Oh, Dawnbreaker also is unbelievably free.
We were this close to +3'ing it.
Yeah. And so like so first off, Scrap, to your point, they do change the timers, but they have to do it very early in the season because that goes back to the question of the meta, right? Like, did they start messing with the leaderboard? That is a huge mess with the leaderboard. Augmentation coming out 10.0.5.
Don't you think this is a huge mess with the leaderboard?
So my
giving
first
every
thought
90
is,
seconds.
My first thought is it is a mess, but my first thought is, where do I think the line should be drawn to say you cannot mess with the leaderboard anymore? Right? I don't think we're going to talk about this in a second, but the rumor is 11.1 will come out in like February, March. Okay. So that means we are 6 weeks into what is effectively a 6-month patch cadence.
Yeah.
There's still tons of time to be timing keys on the leaderboard.
That's true.
Everything that's happening now is irrelevant to a degree. So part of me is like, well, that's fine. Go on and make your changes now. But the other side of it is that like MDI is going on right now. So this is completely flipping everything on its head in MDI. Now, I don't care about the people in MDI. And honestly, they probably wouldn't be upset at me saying that because they know they're in an entirely different bubble. And, you know, like someone on one of, I think it was the Potty C, like said like, oh, this is ridiculous. You guys are messing with the MDI players when you make these changes. I was like, oh, please think of the tens of them.
Yeah,
like,
we don't care at all. Yeah.
That's the least of my fucking concerns. But at the same time, they're I'm going to say professionals at this because they're always ready to anticipate those changes and run with them. Everyone's also at that same disadvantage, right? But anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not so much worried about that. Yeah, Scrap.
Oh, sorry. I don't want to jump too far off topic.
Go on.
I didn't know if you were moving on from this because I just thought of another reason why doing it this way is bad.
Okay.
The way I would do it is that every single person in the key gets one free death. So one wipe across the board, everybody gets an accident, an oopsie. Like, it's going to reflect on your DPS meter anyway, so you're still going to get punished in that regard. But what's the result of this is that like one person can die 6 times and there's no penalty to the key.
I prefer your solution too, but it might have been harder to code, and therefore Kodak ain't got no time for it.
The unfortunate result, I think, is that one person can die 6 times and just be a total weight in the key, and it doesn't pan out.
Let me frame a point of that. So part of the thing that people are accusing Blizzard of worrying about with this fix, I think it's unfair because I think they just took the quickest route to solving the problem.
I would agree with you.
Well, they're worried that people couldn't either sell keys or carry people. And so that's why they did this, is so that you know, the, no offense, Whistle, I'm sorry if you're listening, the Whistles of the world, the Leos of the world could be carried into a 10, get their, you know, vault filled, and it wouldn't affect the timer like it used to.
Yeah.
The other part of this that we need to think is, this doesn't really solve for one of the biggest problems with the timer / deaths, and that's dying like on the first pull of Necrotic Wake, where you're right next to the entrance and can release and immediately get back into the fight, versus dying on the third boss of Necrotic Wake when you've used your whatever, you use your weapons and hero and cooldowns, and he was 1% and then you wiped, right?
I've had 2 of those this week where he was at 1% and we wiped because the Frostbolt people just so focus in and they miss the Frostbolt volley, and it's just like, oh, okay, you lost 6 minutes there.
Yeah, because you lost the timer, you lost the run back, and the boss's 3 minutes that you were burning on him is gone.
You lost lust, you lost a spear.
Yeah. So, that's the other part of the problem. Now that's a problem that's in a different area code of what I really need to solve for in this case. But yeah, this is again where I'm like, okay, Blizzard, I love that you're making a change and honestly, credit to the fact that they're listening. They're listening to the players and trying stuff, right? But I'm surprised like a lead dev didn't say, hey, like I'll make a blue post. Hey everyone, we are going to address this. We need some time to do it right. Just know that it's on our radar. We'll feed you more information soon. But
do you think this is an okay band-aid? Like if they are planning on doing it right and they just put this band-aid on and then in 2 weeks they're like, okay, we've heard your thoughts and everything. Well, okay, I don't know how development works. We learned that from last podcast. But like let's say in a month they're like, hey, we heard your feedback on how we changed this. Like, and we did it so that everybody gets a free death. And like maybe they just did this to put a band-aid so that they come back and be the hero when they're like, hey, that was wrong. Now we're doing it right.
Tech, you
think,
yeah.
I think your suggestion should have been the right way. It might have been harder to program, but each person's first death is a freebie.
Yeah,
that's I think the right way to do it. I think adding 90 seconds is just you're fucking with people's counts. You're fucking with people's like your scores. But I mean, I guess everyone is fucked with equally, so it really doesn't matter in the end.
I don't think I don't care. It doesn't. If someone's like now timing slightly higher key, everyone's now timing a slightly higher key.
Who even cares who gets voted in as president?
I don't really care. It just feels like the more I think about it, the more it's just such a weird fix to this problem.
Yeah.
I think it was just a quick
weird.
fix. I think that's 100% what it was. Yeah. They were like, what's the shortest distance between here and a fix? This.
Yeah. So to answer your question,
90 seconds to one dungeon isn't the same as 90 seconds to another dungeon.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Technique is that like how you determine where you +2, +3 a dungeon is based on the percentage of the timer. And now like 90 seconds added to a short timer is significantly different than 90 seconds added to a long timer. And the timers have big differences between them. It's such a weird fix, man. It's so weird.
It was the easiest thing to do. They're like, we'll just give all dungeons 90 seconds more. All right, move on.
So what's the value of deaths, not 5?
To be fair, like when literally at the start of this segment, when you were like, "Oh, it's 90 seconds, 15 deaths," my like thinking about it for 2 seconds, I was like, "Oh, 6 free deaths," and I didn't think about it any further. But now that we're kind of talking about it, the more I'm realizing. So maybe they're just hoping that people only give it the cursory thought, like I did. That they're just like, "Yeah, that makes sense. 6 free deaths."
Again, that would assume malice. Like I think this was a lazy, like, hey, just do this real quick. Because here's the problem. Here's the problem, right? I think it's a band-aid. Now, like the guys on the bench were saying that they think this is like the new standard. I don't think it is. I think this is them saying like, hey, we are going to obviously reevaluate a lot of this for 11.1, but we're in the middle of developing 11.1 and 11.2 even probably. And having all these like people slow down on that development to come back to this season is a problem. So they put a band-aid on it.
You're telling me that's a job for more than one person?
Yeah.
Gosh, we really don't know.
I have no idea.
No. So you're saying, Tech, that like the class designers are the ones that were making these changes?
What?
The people who are tuning classes.
I'm saying your comment originally was like, we're going to pull some of these people off of what they should be doing and bring them back to fix this. I think that's like a one job, one afternoon, one person's hour of overtime.
This is a one afternoon thing. But going back to the 5 deaths, everyone gets a free death. That might take 2 to 3 days.
Well, then they're not very good at agile coding, are they, Frank?
Okay.
No more agile coding. Can we skip to the next topic?
Point is that like to keep stopping people from moving forward to come back and address is a a tug of war that they have to decide on.
I would imagine they have a bug fix team and a make new shit team, or maybe they've nerfed all that too. Who knows?
I don't think they do.
I mean, when Diablo 4 was like out for a while and stuff. Like they were talking to them and they said like the biggest team at Blizzard is currently Diablo. So I don't think they have as big a team as people think they have for WoW.
Yeah, it's 100 to 300 people total on the World of Warcraft team.
Yeah.
That was when Diablo was in development for release though.
No, that was after. That was like
you know what, Frank?
So it's not a great week, right?
Just to put a bow. Can I just put a bow on this
one? Please, that's the motto of our podcast.
Can we even do a bow?
I prefer, even if they make this awkward change, I prefer an awkward change that benefits the players, like gives us an easier time than a worse time, right? Because can we really complain? We're getting 90 seconds on all these keys, just because it's a weird fix, like it directly does not hurt us. So that's better than doing something that hurts us.
I think all the people it hurts are also the people that will be immediately cleaning up the pain that they're, they'll be immediately timing 17s now instead of 16. Like,
Yeah, why are
no
you
one
bitching about
stopped
that?
their season and said, all right, I hit the top of the leaderboard, I'm done, I'll see you guys next season.
Yeah.
Like, no one's done that. All right.
Yeah.
So just some odd decisions, some lazy coding, right? You would think that's it.
Sloppy.
You'd think that's it, right, Scrap?
Right. Of course, I
No.
think that's it. 'Cause I don't
What
keep up with the news.
happened the day after the patch came out, or maybe 2 days after the patch came out?
That's my favorite part.
Yeah, boy, the new Brutosaur.
Oh God!
They said, wait a second. If you want us to fix all this shit we broke, you're gonna have to pay up.
No, this is
They
based
said,
on
yeah.
player housing team. I don't know what you're talking about. This is funding player housing.
So, the tale of two Brutosaurs here, okay? On the one hand, it's hard to argue that it's $90 for those who don't know. This is an
130 in Canada.
Right? I think it's like 150 in Australia, right?
No idea.
So it's expensive, very expensive, especially by the standard of any other mounts we've ever seen.
On the shop, yeah.
But
more than the expansion.
Yeah. I mean, not everyone. A ton of people bought it, okay? To the point, just a little sidebar here, where the entire token business, why is it so zoom in? Jesus. I can't zoom out on it. Anyways, the entire token business, right? There we go. The entire token business skyrocketed to, in the US, about 300,000 gold. In the EU, I think I saw it hit up as upwards of 450,000 gold, right? It is leveled a little bit back out. We were hovering at 200k going into the expansion and like staying there. And then the mount came out, swoop, back down to 250. Still a good deal for everyone if everyone wants to do that. But people were buying tokens like crazy, or selling tokens for gold like crazy to buy this mount. So it's popular. I think for the most part, there are obviously dissenters who think this is disgusting. But, a lot of people bought this, including like 3 out of 5 of the people in our push group, et cetera, et cetera. So
half the raid, I feel like.
Yeah, exactly, right. Very, very, very popular. It's sold well. So, and in a consumer free marketplace, this good. On the inverse,
here we go.
So the original Brutosaur was worth the equivalent, from what I read, of about $500 of gold to purchase.
Yeah, in the current economy.
In the economy at the time, based on tokens and et cetera, right?
Okay.
So that would have been $500 of an in-game store or whatever mount. But this is only $90, so that's fair, right? Like they actually gave a pretty heavy discount. But the difference being is that mount was available in game entirely to go out and get yourself, whereas this one is not. You have to go through the store.
Well, this one kind of is, because can't you buy WoW tokens on the auction
your gold
house?
for
Theoretically,
yeah.
But we also start scratching an itch of pay to win. Now,
no,
there are two examples.
WoW already is pay to win, so whatever.
In an environment where you can buy pushes and stuff like that. Yes,
it depends on what you qualify as winning, but yeah.
Yeah, but this is an example of literally winning. So there was a thing on Twitter and Twitch where I can't remember his name. I'll try to pull up the clip here in a second, but where a guy gets on the Brutosaur in the middle of an arena match because he ran out of bandages, buys a bandage, heals himself, and wins the match. Right?
You shouldn't be able to use it in arena.
Right? Now, I laughed at it and in the comments said, like, okay, yes, this is obviously stupid, but they will fix this.
Zaryu.
Yeah, Zaryu.
Yeah,
they will fix this, right? Like, this is just like an LOL.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is also the only mount that has a mailbox on it, which if you're going to provide, if you're going to make an in-game store that is not going to leave people feeling icky, it always has to skirt that line of never giving something that doesn't exist in game. And for the first time ever, because the other one, the bear that they had just transmog on it. You have a mount that can't be acquired in game through normal means. So
I don't know. I feel like the mailbox thing is not that exciting because there's so many toys that are mailboxes. Now, mind you, they have long cooldowns, but it's like, how many times do you have to check your mailbox? Like 5 times in like a dungeon? You know,
How many times have you
like,
walked into a dungeon scrap not having pots or something and said,
I have,
"Oh,
I have like
ah!"
3 mailbox toys though. Like,
I have none.
it's
I
not
don't.
that big a
If I do,
deal.
I don't know them. Like I don't know.
And
Oh,
like they
okay.
were easy to get to, the mailbox toys.
Yeah,
Like-
yeah. There's one that was Dragonflight gave one out pretty much for free, like the
Yeah, it was a quest.
Onarian. Yeah, it was like a quest.
Yep.
That's the one I use because it looks
In
the
the Cood.
coolest.
Yeah, like I see no problem with a mount that has a mailbox on it.
Yeah.
It's just like if someone has a problem with it, buy the mount. If you don't want to spend the money on the mount, don't buy the mount. If you don't like how much it costs, don't buy the mount. Like there's tons of stuff they try to sell me that I'm like, oh, that's cool. And someone's like, I bought this. I'm like, I don't care to spend the money.
I specifically didn't buy it. It looks cool. I'll give them credit. The model looks fantastic.
It looks cool, yeah.
And you know, it's cool. I don't necessarily consider it pay to win. The fact
Neither
that
do
they
I.
sell tokens is the closest thing to pay to win.
You can
It's,
buy.
it's pay to
But-
convenience is what it
But
is. Like,
well, I don't know. Like there is an aspect to like, you know, raid progression and Mythic Plus progression where like you have to have these consumables and they do cost gold. And the economy in WoW coming into this expansion was like, okay, well, gold's pretty necessary, and I don't have as much as I thought I did. So it was definitely important. But the fact that I could just be like, I'm going to throw $20 at it and buy a token and be back on my feet, that is
Yeah.
an aspect of pay to win, I think.
I did that.
Yeah, I've done it.
I just,
And
yeah, I
you know,
don't-
there,
I have to
Sorry,
do
the
it just to
problem-
refill our fucking guild bank to pay for scraps repairs.
Yeah, and I'm helping the WoW devs by making Frank buy WoW
long story
tokens.
short, I think the mount is no worse in that regard than what they've been doing the last couple of expansions as far as gold. You know, they own the fucking Chinese gold farm market too. It's like, you know,
Okay.
Oh my god!
Seriously,
You
dude.
can't even
They're
say that
running
with
that
serious
market.
face.
So here's what I think. To me personally, I think, you know, it's an expensive game to make. This is an easy way to get money. Like, they already have the auction house mount. They basically just reskinned it, threw a mailbox on it. I'm sure there's some work that goes into that, but the fact that they were able to sell this so prevalently, like it cost more than the expansion, and they were able to just like, here, sell it, you know, whatever. I don't see anything wrong with that. It's not marketed towards me. I don't buy these like store mounts, but I do recognize the icky feeling of like this could be a slippery slope, because obviously they got they got a huge reward for putting this up. Like, we are going to see more shit like this.
Yeah,
I
sure.
want to add something.
But
One
Yeah.
thing.
Go on.
So I've talked about it enough in our podcast, maybe not enough, but Dota 2's monetary system is super, super fucking perfect. The
Why?
game is free, and you can
What do
pay
you
for
buy?
cosmetics, man.
This is
This
cosmetic.
thing looks exactly.
No,
I think
this is functional.
I'm leaning into a positive. Now it does have some function, but it's not
This
like
has function.
fucking game changing function. Who cares?
That's
Except
what
for
I feel
Zarya,
like,
okay?
but I think we're starting on a slippery slope, because this
Well-
is introducing function. It is
But will
introducing
they make the
something
game
that's new.
free? No, they won't. So because they won't make the game free, it's a little annoying. But they certainly made a fuck ton of money by releasing one little thing and charging a shit ton for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely
You could
worried that they're
technically
gonna.
pay for this game for free if you did the work.
You can, yeah, no, you can, and
Yeah,
you
now
also
it's
could
like a fucking
technically.
job. You're like earning $4 an hour, dude. Nobody
Well,
wants to do
hold
that.
on. You could technically buy this mount with gold, and there's mounts in the game that cost more gold than this. Like, there's like a 3 million gold spider mount. There was a 5
but
million gold
I
auction
guess for
house
the
mount.
teenager that like doesn't cut grass once a week or something, like Jesus Christ, to call this like a let me do this instead of do a job. Just do the job, dude.
I don't think that's what
Yeah.
we're suggesting, but okay. I think your
$20.
point still stands to a degree. So,
Yeah,
go on,
it's
Charlie.
just a mount. Yeah, it's just a mount. Like
So, a
there's
non-issue
mailbox
again from all three of you?
auction.
Well,
I'm not,
okay,
I'm
so
not putting
it's
$90 into it. I mean,
directly a
you guys
non-issue for
have. I don't need
me.
to do it.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is that there's in every group I've been in, somebody's had it now, because this is such a prevalent mount. So I literally don't need this. And also, like it's not a huge deal. The only thing I do in this stupid fucking game is keys. So there's times when it's like, oh man, I'm out of battle pots. Summon me back. Okay, that's it. Just summon me back. It's okay. We lose 2 minutes. This is a 2-minute saver every 7th key. Like, it looks cool as fuck. Honestly, that picture, it looks cool. But this is not something I'm buying. Something I'm upset about. But I do feel a bit wary. It is slightly icky that they're introducing more and more function. Like, the last mount before this, before the cat one was the bear that had a transmog on it. We are going to see more mounts that have functions, and I think we're going to see more mounts that have functions that we haven't seen in game yet. So, and we're going to see more shit that's up to $90 in price. Like, they haven't released any cosmetics that are this expensive or mounts this expensive.
Shawnee joked about it, but like I do believe that if they said all this is going towards funding player housing, it would probably even sold better, right?
I think it would. Yeah.
I would have bought one if it was going to player housing. I probably would have bought 8 and given them to my friends. Like,
okay, chill.
Now, I do want to point out, someone did the math to find out, because this is available through January 6th, which again is the 20th anniversary event. They did the math and they said you'd have to earn 17,000 gold a day to be able to afford this at what was the current rate of
that's
tokens.
Not that much. I mean, I spend like 17,000 gold a day.
You've never made 17,000 gold in a day.
I feel like
I got it from
myself.
Dude,
if you're
talking to Scrap here, Frank.
If you're a crafter, I mean, you get tipped like 5k per crafted item, and they supply all the mats. Like, and then if you have multiple
and thanks to our crafting system, everyone gets one craft every 6 months. No one's crafting shit unless that's what you do in your game time.
I mean, honest, I don't know.
Are you having the ability to only do it once every 6 months? Because that's not my experience.
Yeah, it sounds like user error.
You have to. I don't know, man. I fucking hate the crafting system. They
facetious.
had a great idea.
Almost every crafter of like message is like, yeah, I have it. I can do that on my alt. I mean, people who are crafters are playing every craft every game. Yeah. Like, I know people who have millions of gold. I've known people who are at gold cap. Like, some people, that's a hobby for them. You know, like there's gold in the economy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was
the two asterisks. Buying or purchasing, what's the difference? Buying or purchasing this digital item is a license.
I don't know. Maybe it means a different in Canada or something.
No, it means that they can take it away from you. Anyways, so that was Blizzard's bad week, but today we had some good news. 11.0.7 has been announced with a new zone called, what was it called?
Something Isles.
Like Siren Isles, that's it.
Yeah.
Right? Siren Isles.
I'll be quitting for this one. I'm going to be done.
I'll be honest. Like, it looks good, but I really don't know what the hell's going on. Like,
you said this is supposed to be like Forbidden Isles tier of patch, right?
Yeah, but without the Zerelict
without the fun part.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you get a ring with like 3 different gem slots that you can put in. There's like a rotating enemies through it. Stuff
that was the not fun part about Forbidden Isles.
And there's apparently
they had a piece of gear.
A billion secrets in it in a small space that they're excited for us to all find.
Well, I'm cool with that. That's what I liked about the Forbidden. I really genuinely, I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast, I don't get that excited about most stuff, like just like random shit, like a little bit here and there, but like these gimmicky things, like my reputations across the board are like 10 right now. I don't do this shit. Shawnee's finished his. He's like done.
Not yet.
Yesterday, it got me up to an 8 with someone. Yeah. I was like, I don't know who they are.
Technique. That's so me. But the Forbidden Isles thing, dude, I was all over that fucking tower. I thought it was so fun. I liked the randomness. I loved all these like, oh, I need this piece for a mount. And it's like, oh, this is a pet I don't have. And like, oh, I have to use this for that. For some reason, it just like really scratched a part of my brain that I really wanted. And for that reason, I didn't mind having to grind out and get the right gems because I was having fun like getting all the other shit. So I'm hoping when they say a million secrets, it's going to be stuff like the Forbidden Isles where it's like, oh, here you can find a piece to a mount, like, or here you can like get this key that unlocks something over there. Like, that would be satisfying to me. If it's just a bunch of horse shit that I have to grind out.
They did say there's going to be a surfboard mount, and cool. There's a crow. It's called the Storm Crow, I think, that was added.
It's just a rework of the Rogue Crow. Like the Rogue class crow.
Well, this crow was added into the game in Warlords of Draenor, so before the class crow.
Yeah.
And people data mined it back then and was wondering when it was going to come out, and they just assumed it was like dead in the water. But now they're bringing it back for this event, so people are kind of excited about that. But either way, I'm like, obviously, I'm just happy that they're adding things to do in the game, even if it's not for us. I think we all agree that. But you know, I do feel like it's missing that one kick-ass mini game whether it be
Dude, if they just did the
tower
Forbidden Reach
or...
tower again, I'd be like, fuck yeah, put me back in the stupid
just
tower.
make it pirate
Like,
themed instead of
yeah,
themed.
totally. I mean, was that universally liked? I feel like it was. I don't know anybody who didn't like it.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, most people were ambivalent about it. They got what they wanted out of it,
Well,
and then they were
the question
done.
will be,
I really
will this ring be so buff? Because, again, that starts affecting the meta too, but whatever. Will it be so buff, though, that it carries into Season 2 like the last ring did?
It is.
Yeah,
They
I will
say
say
in the video that it's supposed to carry like a fair way to getting you into Season 2. Like partway. If they make it sound like halfway through Season 2, you'll maybe get rid of the ring then.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's okay. I will say something about this, even if this isn't that exciting and stuff, I do like, sloppiness aside, the approach they seem to be taking to this patch is that, like, this patch isn't just like, okay, here it is, and it's gonna be that until the end. Like, the fact that we have 11.0.5, we get, like, a new raid to play with, and then, like, they're like, okay, but wait, before the next one, you're gonna have, like, another little zone to check out. I think it's cool. Give us, like, a little bit throughout the patch so that people don't just, like, okay, finish the patch in 1 month, unsub, I'll sub again at 11.1.
Yep.
So I do like this approach.
Stop nerfing the bosses, we'd still have a goal to achieve, but because we've got AOTC in, what was it, like 3 weeks?
No,
4 weeks?
6 weeks.
5.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. We got in about 100 pulls, which is how we
normally do. The raid was open for that long, or has it been that long since the expansion started?
No, 6 weeks since the season started.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how to count
at the time of our kill, it's 7 weeks now.
Do you know how to count, Frank? What the fuck? Do you know how to count, Technique? Are you struggling there, bud?
Anyways. So 11.0.7 will be on the PTR Halloween, which is tomorrow or today for when you're watching it. But they also have a Warcraft Direct. I guess that's what they're calling these things now. On November 13th. Now, nothing really said about what they're presenting other than something for a look ahead with Warcraft. There had been rumors that they're going to do a Warcraft 3 double remaster. I don't know what the hell could possibly be done with that, or maybe like even a new, like a Warcraft 4.
Well, they call it the remaster.
They already remastered it. What are they doing?
I know, but like someone was saying, like,
they're gonna
add to it.
No, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna re-release it with an auction house mount.
They're gonna do all the things they originally said they would do in the remaster.
But I have a feeling they'll show us 11.1 in this, like a glimpse of it at least. So that'll be interesting.
I would like that. I'd like to see the new zone and stuff.
I think they'll like mention the new raid in it, would be my guess, because there's no BlizzCon this year to get people hyped for stuff. So
yeah,
I mean, wait, Frank, the new. Oh, go on.
No, I was gonna say 11.1 is on their encrypted server, so like it is ready to be tested to a degree. Now we haven't gotten a 2025 roadmap. No.
Oh my god! I saw the Plunderstorm.
We'll talk about this. We'll talk about this in a second. But we haven't gotten the 2025 roadmap. But I would think that part of that event on the 13th would most likely give us that roadmap.
I hope so, because I love this roadmap. Every time I see that little Plunderstorm banner, I'm like, it reminds me of better times.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the future of what's going on. A lot of news, like I said. We're gonna try to implement a lightning round into the rest of the news. So are you guys ready? We'll do this as quickly as possible.
Lightning round. Okay, I'm gonna really
lightning
keep my
round. Here we go. Trading posts. Noob trading post is up. Sylvanas' stuff is in there, I think. Yep, there it is. The Dark Ages trading.
Slow your scroll. Slow your scroll.
No, I'm not slowing shit. It's just lightning
round. Are you
round.
excited about the arcane the arcane transmog?
Didn't they already have that? They just brought it back. Is it arcane?
Oh, I don't know. No, it's like an Kirin Tor.
This thing,
right? Isn't that the Kirin, like a Kirin Tor vibe?
I don't know.
It's for arcane mages. You have to have that.
That's not for arcane mages.
This is not very lightning. Keep it going.
It's Kirin Tor armor.
All right, buy or sell.
A few more things to look like. That's cool.
I'm buying.
Fucking take it. Buy. Let's go.
Buy.
Sell.
All right. You can earn up to 85% increased experience during this event with like layering tons of shit. Here it is right there. WoW Anniversary, Blessing of Bronzeflight, War Mode, 5 mentors, meaning you've leveled 5 characters, Hollow's End, Dark Moon Fair, and the Drought of 10 Lands. Essentially, if you do it from November 3rd to November 8th, you can have super power level. Anyone can level
If you leveled 5 characters, why are you doing this?
No, I'm selling this.
This again detracts from what I think an RPG is, and I want to role play a character and be a fucking
Technique,
warrior.
You're taking too
long. I don't
long.
want 18 different alts. Sell that shit.
Technique, we know.
Scrap, sell, buy. Okay, so no one's leveling alts. I'm surprised to hear that. I'm in a level.
Fuck no.
All right, I know what this one already is. Scrap.
Buy.
Plunderstorm returning early 2025 with new awards.
I'm so excited.
What's the one thing you want out of it?
What's the one thing I want about? New
She
Zone.
wants a shrub.
A new zone. Okay.
Yeah,
Shawnee,
new zone.
Technique, do you guys care at all? Like, are you going to give it a go?
Listen, I'd be happy to do it if I have someone to do it with. Last time, my friends just played with each other and excluded me like I was a smelly kid in
Yeah.
school.
The context
Me
of
and
that story
Frank-
is it launched with solo and duo only, and then they added
Yep.
tribe, but we had already done all the farming.
And
Yeah, we
anytime I
already
ask
sweaty.
you guys, you're like, "Oh, we'll get you in on the next one." The next one
Frank-
never came.
It turned Frank and I
I'll
into
plunder
different
with you, buddy.
people.
I mean, I
Johnny-
love playing the heck. I play with
Shawnee told
anyone.
me. He said no one else was playing it, and I was like, no, that's not true.
And no one else in MDL was
Lithian
playing
was.
it.
Lithian
He was barely
he
enjoying.
completed
I
it.
asked Lithian.
Anyways,
I was like, "Lithian, you want to do this?"
no longer lightning.
He's
Buy or
like,
sell.
"Oh,
Buy or sell.
I'll
So-
buy it.
I-
100% buy.
I'll buy.
I don't
I'm
hate it.
down with the
Fine.
That's
Plunderstorm.
good.
It was
It was
fun
great.
enough. I didn't get as into it as you guys did.
All right.
It was fun.
And then Shawnee, The Remarkable
Yeah.
Life of Ibelin.
This
Now-
is not lightning.
No, I want your review. Give me a 2-sentence with a
I
rating.
watched it also.
I know, I'll come to you in a second.
Rating, I give it 8.5 out of 10. I think is a fair rating. It made me cry. It made me happy, and thought it was really good. I think anyone for like younger viewers or anyone really who has friends that are like online friends aren't real, online games are dumb and taking up your time. When you watch this, if you still disagree with like online games in this manner, I'd be like, you're just a smuck. And as a parent,
smuck.
this thing made me cry.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if
8.5
you
is your
watched
rating,
this.
yeah?
Yeah.
Technique?
Wait, sorry. One side note. I love that the people that made it, I read an article today, the people that made it, made it, and then went to Blizzard was like, hey, I hope it's okay. We copied all your like stuff and made a movie with all your animations. And they showed it to like the heads there, and they're like, we love it. Go ahead. You have our full blessing.
Took them 4 years to make it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Technique.
It was a super interesting story, and I'm glad they got to tell the story in the way that they did. And I think it's a worthwhile watch. You know, as a parent and someone who lived through video games for a lot of my childhood, not for the same reasons that this young man did, but you know, I felt that it was an interesting story. It was definitely a great watch, and definitely emotional to watch.
Yeah.
as well.
So the three of us are all parents, Scrappy or not. You didn't
Nope.
watch it though
a
because
dog mom.
you even refused to just take my Netflix and log in and watch it.
I was
So
really
you're
busy
you're
this week.
anti
I'm
you're anti WoW and family.
I'm in on this, but this is gonna be a hard watch for me, so I definitely resisted it.
I was worried based on the trailer that's playing here. I was worried there was going to be some forced elements of story that like, you know, were exaggerated.
Yeah.
And
There was
you
some
know
of
they
that.
really lean into this relationship in the trailer. But I loved in the movie how they set it up this story of like him, I guess I don't want to say dating, but like, you know, RPing a relationship with someone. And I thought, okay, well, like they showed in the movie where she like just logged off one day, like they were talking and all of a sudden she's just gone and he's like, I had no idea where she went. And then they just like completely halted that and went to her and what like her side of the story would have been.
Yeah.
I was like, that's when I got really interested in the story. It's like, oh, okay, so they're actually telling the full narrative here. And yes, Johnny, I cried twice. I cried at the start because I'm a mostly
in the
new parent.
finish.
And like just the thought of this happening to my child is obviously heartbreaking. But what is this nonsense? But
Do we even lead into this? How did we get to this? Does the audience know what, like, how we even got on this subject? Like, why we decided
It's the
to do
news.
this?
We're talking about
news, dude. This is launched this week, and everyone's been talking about it. And there's a lot of people going to his memorial in Elwyn Forest to pay respects. The part that got me at the end, Shawnee, was where they're at the funeral and the pallbearers and the guild members, and it's just, you know, beautiful. I thought there. Again, I came into this kind of worrying like, oh, it might be a little cringe because like I'm also not very RP. Scrap, you are, you know, more RP than I am.
I've done it, yeah.
And it was very, very interesting to find out that the guild had like archived everything they've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They'd archived all of it for years. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And like, you know, it's just kind of like all the pieces came together for this guy to have his story told. Whereas if they didn't do that, yes, of course, the impact on him would have been the same because he obviously doesn't see what happened afterwards. But, you know, it's just entirely opening up the world to his parents and even to the guild and all that, and now to all of us. So yeah, beautiful film. It's on Netflix. Highly recommend it. All right, so that is our news. 1 hour into all that. Scrap.
We're doing great. We're going through it quickly, right?
Scrap.
Yes.
What is our topic for today? You are the segment producer of today's topic. I'm
all right.
Trying to hand the reins off.
I'm hoping it goes well, but I've been wanting to talk about for weeks pugging advice. And we've talked about like if people get into a group with me and I'm starting to bring in pugs or trying to pug out a key and stuff, I'm listing on I'm doing a TED talk of like why I'm picking this guy, why I'm not picking this guy, like I'm getting good vibes off of this one and whatever. And I started to think, I need to kind of like put these down.
Can I jump in for just a second?
Yeah, go for it.
So I don't think we talked about this very briefly at the very start of our podcast, but we actually held a contest of sorts in season 3 of Dragonflight where we would award a point or subtract a point from each one of us.
Oh yeah.
Based on our pug, our logic for the pug.
Yep.
And whether they were successful. So like that's how serious we take this, right?
Yeah, I like to consider myself a smart pugger. Like when I'm bringing somebody in, I'm sensing everything.
Smart mother pugger?
Exactly. Like I'm taking in all information, but I'm also trying to look for vibes. Like, is their name good? Is something that I take into account. But it all came from.
Is this going to apply to everyone?
Yeah, right. No, yeah, yes, I think it should.
I totally do the same thing. If they got a cool name, it's a little more important than just a difference in IO.
Well, okay, so I have a lot of superstitions with pugging that like don't have anything to do with actually getting good pugs. Like, is their name good and stuff like that?
Are they from Azerlon?
So, no, we're going to talk about that. But
so
I also have found some very
story,
concrete ones, though.
Today's story is, we've heard a lot about pugging being a disaster. We've heard a lot about you can't get X, Y, and Z done in pugs, right? So today, you want to set the record straight and tell everyone, one, it can be done. I think we all agree that it can be done. But two, here are the things that you need to either reconsider or maybe consider that you never did. And, dismantling all the things about pugging that does or doesn't work for our audience.
Yep.
In case any of you are the ones that are saying, I can't time my 10s. I can't, X, Y, and Z. So that's the main objective here. All right. What do you think let's start with what you think the biggest piece of advice you have is.
So I kind of want to start out, and we've glossed this over, and I've given this advice over and over, and it's tough advice to hear. But like, especially in this season where it's so hard to pug as a DPS, like get into keys and things like that, it's still different for a tank and healer, but still, you should really start with pugging your own key. And people hate to hear that advice because it's so punishing when you miss the timer. But like, here's where my weird advice comes in. If you're pugging into someone's key, there's a good chance there's going to be somebody who's trying to get carried, and that person is going to be the key holder, right? Like, you cannot guarantee that you are that you aren't the worst person there, if that makes sense. Like, if you get in. Like, people, when they pug out their keys, they're trying to get a carry. They want to get people who are higher IO, who are higher item level than them. And so they're the ones who are hopefully, if you're the key holder, doing the worst. But if you pug your own key, then you're going to be doing the worst, right? In an ideal situation. So as long as you're confident,
What you're saying is, if you know you're the lowest rung on the ladder, you will be confident. Okay.
Exactly. And do you agree with my advice on that point?
Well, so here's my first question to you. So on paper, that makes sense that if you're in control, you will be able to make sure you're the worst. And if you're the worst, but you are really good, then you're still going to be successful, right? However, doesn't this feed into the toxicity of I'm a 2400 IO, I've done 9s or whatever that number lines up with, right? I want to do 10s. You Scrap. So you've said this last week, like you're the 2750 whatever IO survival hunter. You just want to get your 10s done for the week. You've timed 11s. You've now timed to 12. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you just want to get your 10s done. But this person, right? So we'll say Leo is our test subject here. Okay. Leo is wanting to get his portal for Necrotic Wake. and he sees you and he's not taking you, as your experience has already told us. So what, like, are we not maybe feeding the toxicity here? How do we flip that on its head?
I will say I have been rejected from tens as a 2700 player, which is very much hurts my ego and it makes me very frustrated with the game, right? I do think it feeds into the toxicity because, like, you know, if you're holding the key, you want the carry, but I don't know a good realistic solution to that. I'm just going to try to help people navigate these already toxic waters. Hold on, Frank, let me be clear about the segment. This isn't a segment of how to improve the community. This is a segment of how to swim in very toxic waters and not drown. So,
You
like,
become a
maybe
shark.
maybe next week Shawnee can do a flowery, like, here's how we improve the community, like, PowerPoint or something. But that's not what I'm doing here, okay? I'm teaching you how to not lose faith in the game and, you know, do well by the community, but, like, you know.
Tip number 1, you build your key.
Okay. Yeah, so tip number 1, you're pugging out your key, right? How do you want to make sure that you don't get in somebody who is a secret carry? This is a piece of advice that I think a lot of people don't follow, and it feeds back in. But my number 1 piece of advice is don't always go for the highest IO, highest gear score person. Like, obviously, you might be looking for certain classes or things, but it's like you need to. What I like to do, and this is a little bit superstition, but, like, I like to pick people who, like, need this key timed. Like, I'll look at their IO scores and it's like, oh, dude, they only have a 9 echoes. Like, they have a pretty high score, but they still need 10 echoes. They are going to do so fucking good because if they have a lower score, they're struggling to get in these keys. They're like get into your key and they're like, finally, I finally have a chance to time this 10 that I really need for my portal or whatever the hell. Like, what I always say when I'm pugging these people in, especially if I see people who are like 23.99, like, anybody sitting at 99 is the hungriest they will ever be to get into a fucking key. Like, they want that 1 point so bad, they're gonna do pretty well. So don't be chasing these people who are like really high IO, really high gear score, especially if, like, it seems like, why are you even applying to this? You don't need it, because that person is the first one who's gonna leave the key if something bad goes wrong. Now, like, the people who are hungry for it, they'll give you a wipe or two a lot of the time because they're just like, oh my god, I have to see this out because I may not get into another key for a while.
So tip number 2 is find the person who wants to earn it, right?
Yeah.
Can I counter this point?
Well, yes, yeah. I want to just add a question to it and then I'll let you counter. So what about the things that the people who are not playing Fodom? So, like, the anti-Fodomers, right? The people who are playing Shadow Priest I'm just, you know, or, you know, whatever Rogue or whatever Warlock or, you know, Unholy
Whatever
DK,
Hunter.
which is still doing well anyways, but, you know, like, do you think that also falls into that category?
Okay, so that leads me to my next piece of advice, so I'll put a pin on that one, because Technique wants to refute that.
What was your question? Or your point?
Oh, yeah. So one way to look at that is like, oh, this person that doesn't have the key timed is just really going to try their ass off and get it done. The other way to look at it is, hey, this person doesn't have his key timed.
Well, Technique, so I'm looking at people who
probably aren't as good as they might think.
I'm looking at people who have, I'm not looking at people who are, like, you know, below 2K trying to get into the key, and I'm saying, like, oh, this person wants it the most. Like, I'm looking at the whole picture. What I'm saying is that there's somebody who's 23.99, you know, and they want to get in the key, and they've timed a lot of 10s. I don't know if 23 is around the 10 level, or maybe it's 24. I can't
24.
remember.
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. They're 24.99, and then there's like a 2600 person, and the 24.99 person has timed 10s, but they don't have this 10 timed, and the 2600 person has like 11s timed. I would rather pick the person who needs this key, who's competent enough to do 10s, who has a decent item level, but maybe not the highest, because I think that person's gonna want to time the key more than somebody who's 2600. I mean, the 2600 person might be just like they just looking for that trinket and Grimbatol or something, and the first wipe they're like, I could get this faster and I can get into any key I want, so I'm just gonna leave. So
to avoid the idea of vibes, though, because, like, you know, your goal here is to help anyone that's pugging, you know, tangibly improve their odds. Are you suggesting that you have a higher success rate with that?
Yeah.
I think she's attaching success rate to vibes, and I'm not against
Here's
that.
what I will say is that it's consistently, if somebody is like 100 points above the key level they're pugging into, like they're 2600 pugging into a 10, I do see those people leaving the key at the first sniff of tomfoolery.
Yeah.
Consistently, like to the point that we're joking about it. Like when we get somebody in there who's like way overqualified for the key, we're joking the whole time, like, oh my god, don't miss that kick, he'll leave, don't do this, he'll leave, because it is so consistent that those people are just like farming something and they don't want to waste their time. Whereas somebody who really needs the key, like they might give a little wipe if it seems like, okay, we still might time it, or they're just happy to get into it, to see a piece of gear, or maybe even get it for their vault at a 10, when they're struggling to get into keys because they're competing with 2600 people.
Okay. Anyone else want to?
Does anybody want to refute that or add on to that piece of advice?
I mean,
No.
I agree with Scrap.
Yeah.
Really, on that part, if you get someone way above it, the first sign of like it not going well, they're like, yeah, moat. Like they're like, they'll type usually like, I'm not here for completion. I'm here to.
Well, okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because on the one hand, I'm trying to, and I'm going to pull up yours actually, Scrap. I'm going to pull up your IO
I'm in trouble.
and see how many of your highest keys have been timed with a meta versus not meta, right?
Sure.
But while I'm doing that, my first piece of advice is over communicate everything you possibly can, starting with, in this case, you said it, Shawnee, completion versus timing.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But also, like there's so many assumptions, and Tech, you said this, I think, on the podcast. I'm not sure, maybe you said it outside of the podcast, but you said like all the routes are the same, and I could not disagree with that statement.
There was one dungeon we were talking about, I forget which one, but in that particular dungeon, I found that there's just not that many routes. No, Stone Vault actually has some tricky stuff when you're starting to pull up the third boss. I think it was Grimbatal. I think it was Grimbatal.
Grimbatal, dude, there's so many different ways to pull it, and I always pull it wrong. Like, always missing that 1%.
There's so many variations in it. Stone Vault, honestly, is the only one that I feel like isn't the most various.
I mean, you can.
Do you guys go and get the versatility buff at this point?
No, I mean, I don't. I personally can't get that.
But that's a good example, though, where it might sway differently because of something that people didn't assume, right?
Yeah.
So, Scrap, I haven't gone too deep, but of the 3 keys that I've looked at so far, DKs, Ret, and Mages are in your
like
group.
this.
All
this
of them,
route that you're looking at right now.
Well, they don't see that. They don't see that. They don't see that. We'll get to that in a second. I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But like, I just want to say, like, communication is, I think, the single most important thing that you can do as a pug. Leave nothing up to assumption. You could argue like things even like kick rotations, but that's more of like a thing to really worry about in 12s and beyond, right?
So
like
honestly,
10s, you don't need to stress too much.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I don't like when stuff gets over communicated at the beginning of a key, because then it makes me feel less confident in that person. It's like, well, yeah, of course we're gonna kick this because, like, why wouldn't we? You know what I mean? Unless you're in voice, I think.
Scrap,
I think,
why
like,
wouldn't you? You don't kick it.
This is my superstition.
It's like, yeah, why wouldn't you guys kick that?
Here's what I think is appropriate communication at the beginning of a key and what to expect in hierarchies. I think it's totally appropriate and even encouraged to ask the tank what the route is.
Yeah.
Like, it can be as simple as just saying like, hey, are we skipping anything? Or like, hey, where are we going to use the spears? And a lot of times tanks will post their MDT route, and you should have MDT downloaded and updated, unlike mine, which I keep forgetting to update this week. But like, because there are so many different routes, and you might not know, like freaking Tettles might have posted a damn route, and like everybody is just assuming that everyone knows. Like, I think it's totally fine just to ask something simple like that. Like, you don't necessarily, like in an 8, say like, hey, give me your MDT or I'm kicking you. Like, just say, hey, what do I have to expect on this route? You know?
Well, I don't think you should get as toxic to say I'm going to kick you, right?
Well, definitely don't be toxic. That's generally.
If I were in the group and I said, "Hey, can you tell me about your route?" and they just like ghost me, I'm going to immediately start going like, "Okay, here we go." But
if
Scrap,
it's my key, I do not tolerate that. Like, I will wait 10 more minutes.
You said something else that I think is something that is such a huge difference maker for the people out there who are complaining that they can't find a team or build a team.
Yeah.
And that's Discord.
Discord is huge.
We built, before we got onto this podcast, we built our entire community on the idea of inviting, I give all the credit to you mostly, right?
Come into Discord, me.
Yeah.
Come into Discord, and again, it could be pushing keys, or it could just be, we're doing keys and they're, easy keys. Come vibe with us, right?
Yeah.
Because then you get this sense of like an investment on, one, the tank can call out the things like, hey, can someone get star? Can someone get circle, right? But two, people are a lot more like forgiving on the idea that, like, oh, it's a wipe. And it's, you're going to, I'm sure, talk about this in a little bit about like posy vibes, but like, it just allows for everyone to feel a little less tense and a little less like argumentative, because they don't want to say it out loud. They'd rather like GG and quit their key immediately. But if they're in Discord, they have this like social responsibility to stay put.
It is also so much easier. Like if something starts going wrong in a pull, in a pug, like for example, we were in a pug. I was pugging a key the other day, and I had my friend in Discord, but the rest of the people weren't in Discord, right? And something got pulled in the back, and I couldn't communicate it to the tank, and I'm trying to trap it, and somebody goes and kicks it when I'm trying to trap it. Like, and it's like, dude, this could have been such an, like, in one word, we could have communicated this and avoided an entire wipe if we were all in Discord. Like, if you genuinely want to push keys, like, especially like up to the 11, like past the 11 level to the 12 level and stuff, like, yeah, people can do it wordlessly, but kicks are getting wasted, if you're not all in Discord. Like, people are not on the same page. It's just like having Discord and be able to communicate, even if you're like not talking a whole lot, even if you're just listening, like that is a huge
you don't have to talk.
Leg up. It's almost like cheating, man. Like that, it's so much easier when you're in Discord to like talk to your healer, talk to your tank, like so that you're always on the same page. And honestly, that's something that I genuinely do like all the time. That's how we built the community, is that like when we start a key and there's like a couple of us in here, we get pugs in, I post the Discord link and I say, hey, no pressure, come in if you want. And that's how you meet friendly people who are really dedicated to the key. I mean, sometimes people just come in and they just listen, and that's totally fine. They leave and we never see them again. But sometimes we meet people who stick around. They like the vibe. They want to talk. They're looking for something like this.
And they heard a girl talk.
Right.
It's been talked about many times and asked about like, well, how do I form a group? And I see people in the looking for a group finder, like saying like, hey, looking to form a group and all that stuff. But Scrap, you and a couple other people invited me into Discord to run it was like an 8 plague fall or something like that.
It was a 9. No, it was a 9.
Something, right? It wasn't like it wasn't a 15. It wasn't a 20 to get portals, right?
It
was just a vibe. It was a shit show of a run.
Yeah, we wiped in the first pull. It was Plaguefall. It was Plaguefall.
It was Plaguefall. I know it was Plaguefall because I have it was 11 Plaguefall because I have you listed in my note as 11
Plaguefall. You're right.
Right, but from there, 200 plus people, a raid team, a guild now, a podcast even, all formed from just that idea that I came in. And any other time, like any other place where if I were in a key that was going that sideways, I would have left. After the 5th death or whatever. Yeah. And just gone on with my day.
I think the key did break up. Like we didn't finish it.
No, I think we did. It was one of our famous hour-and-a-half keys, right?
Yeah.
But there's no world where I would have stayed an hour and a half to finish that key in any other scenario.
Yeah.
But coming into Discord, so again, communication. But
you're getting me off my bullet points, Frank.
Oh well.
Let me solidify.
Wanted to be natural in the conversation.
Okay, let me just solidify that into a bullet point because I had this on my list. Is that like be a good sport, like, and what the point I put is that higher keys have smaller communities. There's been multiple times I've pugged into a 12 or been pugging my 12 or whatever, and I've had somebody tell me, "Don't get that guy. He whiffed our key." Like, the higher up you go, the smaller the community. If you're an asshole, like word's gonna get around. Like if you mess up in a key, apologize. Like literally, like if you butt pull something, just say my bad. It's as simple as that. Like, and it's like just be friendly. Me. Yeah, right. Be friendly. If you do a key with some people and you liked it, like it went smoothly, there was a good vibe. put them on your friends list, ask them for keys, get them in disc. Like it's a community like activity, and I think why a lot of people are frustrated in pugs is that it's like so many pugs, especially at the higher level, like Necrotic Wake. It's like you've worked up, you've got your key to a 12, you're really excited to run it. The tank pulls everything into the gatekeeper, nobody kicks and just leaves.
Yep.
Like, and that's not fun. It's not, the game isn't supposed to be played like that, in my opinion.
It's the Wild West.
Really, it is. It's really only fun if you're doing it together and you're working out together. And tying into some other advice is that, like, you need to be patient because every key you whiff, you're going to learn a little something. It might be, hey, don't like bring that guy back to my key again, like sort of thing. Or like,
her
like
toxic
maybe I
vibes
should
are back, Johnny.
or maybe I need to ask the tank what his plan for the first pull of Necrotic Wake is every time I pug in a tank.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so even a key that lasts less than a minute, you're gonna learn something from, and it's like, be patient. It's okay. Like, if you don't time every key, you're not gonna get that literal physical points, but you're gonna get, better as a player, hopefully, unless you're getting worse, and then I can't help you.
Okay, so let's recap real quick. So,
Okay.
I don't remember what your first one is. Oh,
I'll
be careful. Be careful of aiming too high, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And your point of advice was communicate. I agree with that point of advice.
And then I said, strongly emphasize Discord in that.
Yeah.
Don't use Black Arrow.
Don't use Black Arrow. I said, be a good sport. Be a good community member. That's another piece of advice. But I want to go back to the picking for your pugs, because that's where I started and we got off track. Because you mentioned something about flavor of the month classes. This is sound advice, I'm telling you. Don't chase flavor of the month classes, because this is what happens. This is mathematical. This is scientific. Is that everybody is bringing these flavor of the month classes into their keys, right? It's an 11. You see this arcane mage. He's a little bit underqualified compared to somebody else who applied, but he's an arcane mage, and you heard that they're flavor of the month and they're really good, and his score is not terrible. Like, he's done some keys and stuff. You do the key.
Sounds like Frankenberry to me.
Hold on, I'm not mentioning any names. You do the key, and the arcane mage is dying. He's sitting around the tank in damage, but you're doing well enough, and the rest of the people are doing well enough that you still time the key, and that fucker still gets points. And he's gonna take those points, and they're gonna say, "Oh, an arcane mage. I heard those are flavor of the month," and they're gonna bring him in. I feel like flavor of the month classes are getting disproportionately carried to higher score because they're taken in pugs more frequently. Not all. That's maybe a hot take.
Scientific.
No. I think the scatter shot of how many you see means that, because I mean, again, you said this last week, like, you've seen nothing but bad Frosty case, but I think the three of us would disagree with what our I mean,
it's this is all personal experience stuff, but I genuinely think you need to buyer beware with certain classes. And I think the better metric for it is what I said, is that it's better to know what classes are easier to play than what classes are doing the best in the highest keys.
Okay, hold on.
Because you're not in the highest keys.
I want to challenge this. Hold on. I agree with you I agree with you on the bullet point, right?
I'm going too far though.
No. Well, I think it's for the wrong reasons. So, okay. So I'm going to use Arcane Mage as an example. Because I've stuck to Arcane Mage for the past 3 expansions.
And I will say, Frank, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about
I know you're not. But I want to make a point.
You do well in keys.
Because
I've not seen an
thing.
arcane pug who's done anything but dog shit in a keys.
So. Here's the reason, right? So we've joked around saying that Arcane is the hardest spec, but whatever you say it is hard, right? To a degree.
Yeah, it is hard.
So you have this Fodum Chaser who's chasing a hard rotation.
Yeah.
And then they don't know the severity. I mean, there are great players out there who can look at a class and immediately pick up all the little nuances to it, right? But if you chase this idea of, I'm going to be a mage one day and a warlock the next and a demon hunter the next, you're never really going to master a class. And what really gives you success at this level is knowing your class forward and backwards. So that when I walk into a dungeon, I might not be Fodum as an arcane mage in season 3 of Dragonflight or, season 2 of Shadowlands or whatever it was, right? I remember fire mages were always, right? But yet I go into a key with a fire mage, or I go into a key with whatever class you expect to see, and will beat the pants off of them. It's because I know the intricacies of my class really well. I know how to flow my rotation of cooldowns. my defensives of alter time, and all the other stuff that go into that. That is a very much skill-based spell that I start mastering it and I start being successful despite the fact that I am a D tier or F tier class. My advice is not to, especially in the middle of a season. How many people
don't
have
chase
we
in the middle of
seen
the season?
We'll say, I'm gonna change it just so I don't literally call this person out, but like we'll say I'm switching from a Shadow Priest to a Frosty K or whatever.
Yeah.
And like they say, because I can't time keys at a 10, right? Of all places, 10 or 11. And I my first thought is like, go to Raider.io and you'll see that people are timing 17s with that class, 16s with that class. How can you say you can't do it? Like, that's not true.
Yep.
You can 100% do it with any class, as we saw last week when we reviewed all that data.
Yeah.
At a 10 or 11 or 12 even. But like, yeah, if you want to play at the highest of levels, you need to squeeze out that little bit extra that a Fodom can do. But we've already discovered that, balanced druids who are supposed to come in as F tier in this season
Leave balanced druids alone.
are absolutely clobbering the highest of keys. Right?
Yep.
Everyone can do it. Yes, you may not see a ton of holy priests doing 16s or 17s, but that's just because Disc right now apparently is just eking out that little bit extra, so all the min-maxers out there are going to switch because they want to be the most efficient possible. But
okay, let me. Oh, sorry, go on.
Well, I was going to say, Meg, who is a famous Mistweaver, always has gotten the title every single season as a Mistweaver, despite the fact that Mistweaver all but one season has been F tier of a sort for healers, and just further proves that if you master the class, you can achieve any level of success you could possibly hope in this game.
Yep. Well, I want to. You kind of pushed into my next point.
It's called segueing, dear.
Segueing, yeah. So, like, what I started with.
Wow.
What I started with was like, hey, when you're pugging your key, and you veered more into like a personal responsibility, like you need to like, don't switch your classes and stuff, whatever. I agree with that. And my next point is pay attention to what went wrong with the key. Because a lot of times it's the reason you're not timing keys. You think it's like, oh, because so-and-so's DPS was bad, or so-and-so died,
or the healer didn't get me
many times, or the healer didn't heal me enough, or whatever. Or my class sucks is why we didn't time the key, because I did the least damage, and that can only possibly be because my class sucks. Like, you need to really focus on what went wrong. And we have so many, I'm going to use Lithian's words, forensic tools at our disposal to figure that out. Like, even on just details, you can see like kicks. What was kicked, like how many people use like stuns and displacements and things like that, how much damage you took from what abilities. Like, if you wipe or if you die to something, don't instantly think like, oh, the healer didn't heal me. Look at what killed you. Was it something that could have been kicked? Were you kicking? Like, did you have a stun available? Like was the healer like, was there communication? Was the healer like dead? Like, so many times I see people just gloss off like, oh, this tank sucks, like they did this, or this healer isn't healing me, they suck, or like my class sucks because I'm not doing any damage. When like wipes are not always just one person's mistake. You might think it's like, oh, the tank pulled too much and then we wiped instantly. It's like, okay, maybe the tank pulled too much, he didn't have the right cooldowns, or like you weren't prepared to, stuns kind of like got overlapped or something like that. And that like deaths aren't always and aren't even often the healer's fault. Like, I feel like there's so many things that can be prevented, especially with these big pack pulls, and then it's like one person dies, suddenly you're down one kick. Like, you should be looking into this stuff at the end of keys, so that you don't just go to your backup of like, oh, my class sucks, oh, the healer sucks. Like, try to figure out what really went wrong. You can avoid it in the future. That's like a good capstone piece of advice, I think, for pugging.
Can I add to that to say, take it even a step further, right? I think you should log on Warcraft logs.
Yes.
Because you can see, like, Details does a decent job, but like, you really, if you want to find out what the root cause of something was, go on to Warcraft logs and you can literally see a replay on the map even sometimes. But
yeah, and we have some really fun times with Warcraft logs, because we were trying to figure out like who pulled something, and we were going like frame by frame to see when this mob got pulled, and we had like an entire fucking court case that was like tried and sentenced over like,
you stole my story, Scrap.
Go for it. You can tell the details of the story.
Like, the long and short of it is that I was also going to say, record your keys, right?
Yeah.
Like, the number one thing that I have been trying to grapple with over the past 2-3 expansions as I get more sweaty in my keys, right, is what is and isn't my fault, right? And I was, back in like Shadowlands / early Dragonflight, I was like really not using my cooldowns. One, because when I was in like the lower end keys, not pushing as hard, like they didn't really need to be used, right? But two, I was also like just assuming the healer was always going to have the like spot check ability to see that. Like, so a good example of this is the boss in Oldemon, that second boss or third boss where like they put a dot on someone and then slam the ground and everyone was going. But if the person in the dot didn't have full health, they were almost certainly dead. Like, my thought at the first time I saw that dungeon was like, well, the healer just has to focus me when that's going on. But like, play
but
healer.
You can also,
playing a healer, there's so many
Go ahead.
variables you don't have control over, right? So what I want to show everyone real quick is something that I think is a great tool. It's called Not Even Close, right? I think this is made by the guy that makes the 3 Chests, the website as well, which we'll get into in a second. But today I wanted to run a 13 Necrotic Wake, all right? And
you get one shot by
so you can put in all your stats, right? And look, if I don't put my the prismatic barrier up, I'm going to die very handily, by the way, to Heaving Wretch, which is the main mechanic of the fight that I might see 15 times in a row. Not 15, 4 times in a row on that boss, right? So this tells me, before I even get into the key, which I could obviously review a video or review the logs, but this tells me right away, click this, I'm living. Literally, you live, right? I can also say,
health, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can also see, well, with only 2% health. So that means if I'm anywhere below 98% health, well, if I use invisibility, which is a huge damage reduction, I'm actually only going to get 25% hit. And that would tell me also that not only is it so important that I'm preparing for these moments in the fight, but also if I see my healers struggling because someone else made a mistake or, it always happens, something goes sideways, I could say, well, I'm going to use invisibility on this one because I can see my healers hurting. So like there's so many tools, the forensic tools, right, of both post-key and pre-key that you really should be researching, because I like this Heaving Wretch on a 12 or 13, my key falls apart like 80% of the time because a warlock or hunter or whoever, because I took the non-meta classes like Scrap Advise. Well, they get Heaving Wretched on and it hits them for 9 million damage. And of course they only have 6 million health and boop, we're done. Like, that's it.
I will say that's funny that you're using this example because I pugged into a 12 this week and I got one shot by this and I was like, oh, so I get one shot by this on a 12.
Yeah.
Now I know. And it's like I fucked up that guy's key.
On a 12, it does 9.76 on, like full stop damage if you don't. And it tells you this is magic damage, right? Like sometimes you think something's physical and it's not. Sometimes you think it's magical and it's not.
Yeah, it should be physical. Whoa. It's barf. Whoa.
Adblock wanting money from me. So yeah, like I cannot stress like the forensic, as you said, but I the biggest thing for me to get me out of this toxic mood of why didn't the healer do this or why was to record the keys and say, okay, well, it happened, so I'm let it go at this moment, and then go and review it to say, well, this is actually my fault, because you can see that the cast is going off and you can see that I have my cooldown ready to interrupt, but because I'm so laser focused on trying to win the meter, which I've already expressed, I don't think that's a healthy attitude, I missed it and therefore die. And as Tekko has told us, his guild leader used to tell us what technique?
You can't DPS when you're dead, man.
Yep. So highly recommend that. Sorry, I just wanted to interject that, Scrap.
I this is a really cool tool, but no, that's a perfect interjection, because the way I learned that I get one shot by that in a 12 is by wasting my opportunity to 12.
Yep.
By dying on the first boss. Now it wasn't my key, so who cares, right? But I could have.
You're building a toxic
really cool
community,
tool.
Scrap.
I know. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing, is that I don't know how to fix the community. There's a lot of ways that the community could be fixed, but that's not what I'm giving you advice to. I'm giving you advice to navigate what's already extremely toxic, and I'm sorry if it makes the community worse.
All right. So what's the next bullet point? Is there another one?
I think that's it. Let me summarize my bullet points. Of course, I have all kinds of random superstitions, but these are the ones I think are like the most, and I'll summarize. Okay, 1, pug your own key.
Build your own key. Let's say build your own key.
Build your own key. Yeah. Use your own key. Like, try to build it up. If you're struggling to build up a 10 repeatedly, maybe you're not ready to go into 11s in the first place. You know, like either you don't have the skills as that class, or you're not a good enough at picking pugs. And let me lead into that next one. Pugging, your key advice: don't always pick highest IO, highest gear score. That doesn't necessarily mean best player. Don't chase flavor of the month classes. You're gonna get people who are carried and are annoying.
And don't do it yourself either.
Yeah, don't chase yourself. We talked about that a bit last week. Like, master your own shit. You can be really good at whatever you pick up. You just have to be dedicated to it. Ask for routes or over communicate, you know, like in the key. Especially getting disc. I really think that is a keystone piece of advice that you brought up. I wasn't even thinking about it, but Discord literally is like cheating. Like, it makes the key so much fucking easier. It's ridiculous.
And you'll build friends.
And you'll build friends, yeah. And that could be scary, but you never know. I mean, like, if you go into a Discord and they suck, like, you never have to go talk to them again. It's fine. Like, unless you're doing 16s, and there's probably only that Discord and one other. I don't know, but we're not giving advice to people doing 16s. What was the next piece of advice? Oh, pay attention to what went wrong. And that feeds into what you're talking about. Like, look into your logs, look into your video, you know, really take accountability. Like, hey, am I not doing DPS because I'm missing a very key point of my rotation? Or like, am I not doing good DPS because my class sucks? Because I guarantee you it's the latter. Like, or you might not have the right gear to make it work, or like, yeah, or you might have died because you didn't kick something. Like, those are really important. And then my last piece of advice, although it's out of order now, was just like, be a good sport, be a good guy in the community, be friendly, don't be an asshole, apologize, because like, you are going to miss opportunities if you get a bad reputation, especially as you go higher. There are smaller communities, like, and you're not going to be able to, if you were an asshole the whole key and the tank was awesome and you try to give him a friend request because you're like, oh, I want to do keys with him later, like, he might not accept you as a friend, like, and you're going to miss that, like, that doorway or that golden ticket into pugging keys, because it's way easier to pug keys if you have a tank or healer friend, man. Like, so yeah, I think that caps everything off.
Okay. I have some other things I want to add, but Shawnee and Tech, I want to give you guys an opportunity.
I know, because we just talked and talked and talked.
I think my main thing is just like, out of all of it, is like, be a good person, you know?
Yep.
Like, go in, like Scrap said, make your mistake, but like also go in and be like posy. And I try at the start of the key, be like, if I'm pugging, I try to say something posy, like, yeah, can't wait to kill this, we're gonna crush this, whatever. Like, don't go in all kind of like Debbie Downer. But yeah, most everything I agree with Scrap. I will say, like, a lot of people will like be down on certain servers. I am not one server.
I think we agree with.
I made the joke.
So here's the real thing, and Shawnee, maybe you're about to say the same thing, so I'm sorry for steamrolling you, but like, if you really think about it, like, I'm going to anyway. Like, I really tried to think about it after we watched that one video about the mage talking about, like, don't shit on people from certain servers. I have just as many bad players from Ragnaros as I do from like Storm Rage. Like, are you being racist, or are you like using actual information is the question. And
I will say the only servers I'm wary of are actually like the Pacific servers because of lag, like Frostborn. And that's not them individual. Like, I've played with, like, Frank and I had like this really good MM from Ragnaros with one of those servers, and like, they cleaned our clock. So I was just, I don't care about the server.
Damn, dude. Sounds kind of hot.
Yeah, in the 12 I timed, I had a healer from Rag, and he was awesome.
So
like,
that's the other thing. Like, don't go with the server hate is the other one.
I'm going to stay quiet on that one.
You should sit quiet, old man.
Old man.
You say, Scrap, like, do I have enough data? Yes, I have tons and tons and tons of data.
But do you add to your data points when somebody from Area 52 is bad? Because I've had plenty of people from like North American servers that suck ass.
Because I've never, like, there's a different kind of bad.
I don't think there is.
Let's not get into this. Let's not get into this. I don't think it's a good space to be in.
But I encourage you to, like, every time you have somebody who pisses you off in a key, write down their server.
Yeah, I do, and it's always the same two servers.
No,
but again,
it's not. I think you're only thinking. I think you only look back and you're like, "Oh, that guy was from Kel'Thalas. Of course he left." You know what I mean?
No. Again, we're not. Okay, so Shawnee, I want to add something to your point, right? Because I fully support and I agree with. You have to change your mindset and be posy, right? But what I want to add to that, and Scrap, we joke about this every time again, right? There's this idea of obviously just like kind of staying focused and not saying anything. And then there's also like just team building morale of, it's okay, we got this, you know, we wiped or whatever. Scrap, the warrior that we played with, I don't even think I played with him but once, but you played with him, like, missed it by that much, right? Like just being posy, almost had it, right? Being posy, it's like, it's okay, because like, there's an example of like Siege of Borealis. A wipe happens early in the dungeon, and people don't realize that if you just like, again, maybe not so much at the higher levels, but like at the 10s, you have room for breathing to make a mistake in that.
We timed an 11
90
with
seconds. You have
2
extra
full wipes
now,
and 18
actually.
deaths.
Yeah.
Like,
but people will leave because they just think like, oh, that's it. It's like, no, it's okay. We'll be all right. Don't worry. I'm not panicking yet, because, you know, I get it. Some people just don't want to waste their time. But at the end of the day, if you got 15 minutes left and you're on the 3rd boss, like, you'll be okay. It's okay. And yes, you might still miss it. But
Can I add some bonus advice that isn't exactly for pugging, but I think is super fucking important? Is that if you're trying to train a push team, like you've got a couple people that you're pushing with, you have a team of 5. You get stuck on a boss or something that you just can't get past, do it until you have 100 deaths. Like, push group teams should not be breaking up after you can't time it. Like, if you can't time it, you got to see it through, because you don't want to like master the first boss in Necrotic Wake on an 11 just to realize that you now have a problem with the 3rd boss. Like, you need to put in that sweat if you're with a team. Like, you need to persevere. You need to get 100 deaths in a dungeon if you're working with a push group to kind of hammer out all these issues that you have like working together. And we know that from doing a push group together. We have like our fabled like 100+ death, like, you know, high level keys at the beginning of the season where we push through to get that vault slot or whatever. But it's also good team building of like, you know, like,
practice.
Can we remain cool like after you've done this boss 20 times? Like, and also like every time we do the boss, like we might feel like, oh wait, we should be standing on the left side. It makes it a little bit easier, you know, instead of just like throwing ourselves at the same boss and then logging off for the night, you know? Yeah, that's a bonus advice.
Anything else, Johnny?
I don't think so. I mean, I feel like that's it. Positive vibes, man. Like, you guys say, like, cover most everything I say. I think, communication's key. Discord is great. I mean, I'm in here because Scrap and Garen and someone else said, I don't think a sub-root can do that much damage.
Well,
like,
I
"Come
remember
to
we
Discord."
got into Discord and like I decided the rogue, whatever. But then you mentioned you were a tattoo artist. I was like, I'm a tattoo artist, you know, and that's how, and we've been friends ever since, you know.
Yeah. So I think Discord's great. I think, you know, as a whole, for people who are like, I don't want to pug as much, get in Discord with people and make friends. You know, be a good person. I know Technique misses the sense of community that WoW used to have, per se. Some way of getting that back to a degree, get in Discord. You can't, you know, you can't get to know people if you don't ever talk to them whatsoever. So, yeah.
I want to add to the Discord before I go to Technique about how this could be a double-edged sword, though, right? Because it's also, if you're the type of person to be critical, even if you're really critical on yourself, but also critical to others, it could be a really quick way to building a bad reputation as well, right? So, for example,
I think you earn that then.
Yes, you do. You do. But what I'm saying is, like, my advice to the people who are pugging, who are trying to grow their score, achieve a goal, whatever, is you have to put that away in the moment, right? If you want to prove like you're right to yourself later and go back and look at the tape or go back and look at the logs and see like, oh yeah, you know, Scrap didn't interrupt that like she should have, yada, yada, yada. You know, do that later. But when you're in the key, just assume everything is you're included in every reason why something failed. Because if you don't, you're only going to drive yourself deeper into a negative space that you'll start either resenting or making more mistakes or, you know, whatever it is that will cause you to have a bad time, even if you do time the key, right?
Can I add to that one small thing?
Yeah.
Just you need to assume everybody's trying their hardest. Like, nobody wants to sit in a key for 2 hours. Like, if I'm missing kicks, it's not because I'm trying to personally make you have a bad time. It's that I'm struggling with something, you know? Like, so just like assume everybody's trying their best and give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, that's just how to be a good community member, good player. And they're going to think, like, I want to play with him again because, like, when we missed the key timer, he was still positive vibes. And I don't want to play with this guy again because the second like I made a mistake, he made a huge fucking deal about it. Made me feel bad for the rest of the key.
And it's always the person who says the most shit who also is probably equally as responsible for their own shit. And don't say a word. And you know, like you don't want to be just throw that shit in the trash.
Really good players. Really good players, like maybe not the highest end players, but really good players make mistakes and have off nights. And like you don't want to upset somebody who's having an off night and like earn bad reputation for them because like the next day they might be like timing 12s and 13s. Like they just had a bad night with you and you were being an asshole to them and now they don't want to play with you. You know, like be nice, man. That's it. Just be nice, dude. Especially if you're trying to build a community yourself, build a push group. Like this shit is hard. You know, the whole point of pushing Mythic Plus is to like push to the limit of your ability. So there's gonna be a point where it gets too hard, and like you want to stay friends after that, right? So yeah, it. Just be nice, man.
And look, I'm guilty of a lot of the things we're talking about.
Everybody gets frustrated.
Yeah, and no, but like it was so eye opening and refreshing to just say like because it takes years to build that kind of stuff up. You don't just like come into it like that, right? And it was so eye-opening and refreshing to just like take a step back and say, well, first off, do I want to be that person? But second, like, what am I doing to actually help there? So anyways, technique, what do you want to add to this?
I'm grateful to be a tank. I don't have to deal with any of this shit.
So this doesn't really apply
just get into whatever key I want, whenever I want. I call all the shots. I tell everyone what to do. I tell them if they suck. I tell them if they're great. I can be
that's
nice
one of my pieces of advices, though. So I have two that I was going to add. That's one of them. I think it is so good for someone who is pushing DPS, especially, to try to not necessarily push as high, but push some hard keys on a tank and a healer. You learn so much more about not only what the dungeon's doing that you don't ever see. Like, for example, Scrap, how often do you really know about those curses going out in Grim Batal? Or or the hell, there's curses in Stone Vault that like demolish people that you may not even know. You just see your health go down and you just assume like, well, someone's doing something wrong. Right?
I've become really nosy with my healers and like asking them when they're using like healing cooldowns and like giving them advice like, oh, we should use this for the overlap and you should save this for that and stuff like that. But in general,
do you know all the overlaps that exist? Or you just assume the ones,
and the only reason, a lot of times, the only reason I clock something like that is because it killed me personally.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a ton of things that just haven't killed me personally yet that aren't on my radar.
But like, there's also from the tanking perspective, right? Like you are in this zone of like, you should be shot calling and kind of like guiding the whole experience, of course, and knowing where the big pulls are coming and where defensives obviously need to be used. But also like how interrupts should be distributed and all that stuff makes such a difference of how you understand the key that you are a much better DPS player in my opinion of it. So that was the first thing I wanted to add to that technique. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I was going to say most of that except you said it for me. So that was...
Oh, well, sorry. I was trying to let you finish and then you just like said, yep, just something tank.
That's true though. Playing tank definitely I feel like makes you like more capable of doing a good job in some of the other roles and probably works the same way for playing a healer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure playing a DPS makes it better to tank in certain scenarios too.
I think most people who switch to DPS never switch back because they're like, oh, this is way easier.
It is more stressful.
I prefer to tank personally, and I always have, and I believe I probably always will. Not to say, I don't know, I just like being in control of the run, and I don't have to like worry about thinking about what someone else might do because it's pretty much all based on the route that we go. The route that like you guide, like Frank was saying.
All right. Anything else you want to add?
No.
All right. My last piece of advice. I've said it before. You got to plan routes. You got to talk to your pugs about this. Like on a level, I cannot like the success rate goes up. I want to say like 70% when not only because I'm gonna zoom in right here real quick. So this area right here.
Oh,
I did a little test, right? I did a little test where I did 5 Dawnbreaker keys over the course of the last, let's say, 10 days, right? And this is my route right here, but I've seen of 5 keys, 5 different pull sets in this area alone, right? And that isn't to say that, especially at like the lower end keys of 8s and whatever, and I say lower end, some people are struggling even to get there, but like that isn't to say that it's needed at that place. But like when I'm, even as a DPS or a healer, know where the big pulls, the scary pulls are going to be, right? Or I know that you're going to try to pull this into that pack or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
I also know that like down here, like, so this is something I saw more frequently this week was like, for me, I like to just clean these 2 up. I want to clean this guy up here so that it's easy to throw the orb down there without having to worry about, butt pulling. But what I've seen more now is that they're actually clearing this stuff out and pointing it into the fountain, right? So there's so many variations where I'm never going to want to assume what you're going to do as a tank, that it'd just be nice to know on the surface. But also, it'd be nice to know I want to save maybe a cooldown here because this is going to be very dangerous. And I want to make sure we survive it. So I need to save my defensive. I need to maybe even see my, save hero or whatever for it. Like how many times, so like the most common thing to do is to hero this pack right here, right?
Yeah.
But even though that is very common, it's still not 100% guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And without discussing it and looking at the route beforehand, leave notes, you can put little indicators here to say like, hero here. And so everyone knows exactly what the pace is. I don't know, well, I do know why. Like some of the dungeons just became press W and win. But
yeah,
I cannot stress that this was such a big difference maker for me as a tank in Shadowlands. And now as a DPS or in War Within, knowing what you're planning, I mean, hell, let's go look at Necrotic Wake real quick. This area alone.
Fuck this area, dude.
No joke. I might even argue that I've not seen the same set of pulls twice with a new tank, right? Obviously the same tank will pull the same way, but like every time I have a new tank, they have some variation of like, I've seen this pulls sometimes. God knows we always know the gatekeepers are a problem, but like I did a 13 today where we pulled this with like literally everything else in this area.
Yeah.
And the 13 went really well. We killed this pack and it was fine.
The past 5 necrotic wakes I've done above 11 have pulled that gatekeeper. And the 12 I did last week that we didn't finish pulled both gatekeepers, not together, but one gatekeeper pull, then the other half of the room with the gatekeeper. And it was horrifying, but we did it.
So in the 13, we pulled all this and it was fine. It, we heroed and it took forever. And then we like died on the boss and it wiped and it went away, right? But then I dropped to my 12, and then the literal next pull, we did this one, and then like all this stuff together with it, or whatever variation it was, and it went way worse for whatever reason because the tank didn't even tell us what was happening, right?
Yeah, because there's too many kicks in that one.
I am, whoever makes this the MDT/3 chess. First off, a personal thank you. I think it's one of the best tools of this game. It is so helpful. You can right click on everything. Well, you can in game at least with the MDT. And see all of its, is it immune to CC? Here are all the spells it casts. You can, I think you can even scale it up to see how much damage it does with every single level of key. And then as a tank, you are preparing your DPS and your healers to know when their cooldowns should be ready for whatever, variation of things are going to happen. And it just makes the world of a difference. And you can leave yourself notes like, hey, make sure you kick the frostbolt volleys on this. So that people might ask the question like, oh, hey, should I get star? I'll interrupt star every time. Yes, please.
Yep.
That's exactly what auto markers exist, but I don't necessarily believe in them. I like to personally mark myself so that I know, okay, Scrap is going to be kicking star every time. This guy, the mage or whatever, wherever the guy is always going to get a star. So I can say, Scrap, that's yours. Take care of it. And there's back to the communication point, there's no confusion. Everyone knows it takes 1 minute at most to review this stuff. Everyone's on the same page. Success rate goes up.
Yeah, and I think like MDT is an amazing tool, and if you can't get in Discord or you feel uncomfortable in Discord or you can't get your pugs in, this is the next best thing.
Yeah.
Like this is the only way to get on the same page as somebody without directly being in Discord with them.
It's so surprising how many different variations or routes. Like this one's a given because of the wide openness of it. But like, even within Stone Vault, which is, press W, we did this the other night technique, right? We were in this area. You wanted to get this buff, the versatility buff.
Mm-hmm.
But you also did it for the boss, whereas I've usually seen people will pull these two, right? They'll get the buff and then they'll move on to these two and then go to the boss. But you had the different and arguably better idea of, well, it's 11 or whatever we were doing. I want this for the boss. So instead you cleared all this trash. Then we went back. Well, you can note that stuff in the tool so everyone knows exactly what's going on and there's no confusion. Again, we
were in Discord. I didn't give a.
No, I know.
Walking you through what I wanted to do.
But had you done that, and we weren't pugging, we were all together, like we could all talk to each other. But had you done that in the pug, again, it may have cost 10 seconds, right? With someone walking this way, whoever the blacksmith is of the group or whatever. Or maybe they got it early and you didn't want them to. Or maybe they even butt pulled this trash thinking that's what you were going to do next. How many times have you complained about me pulling something, right? So by knowing it, even if I save 10 seconds, well, we've all had those keys where we were so close that we missed it by 1 or 2 or 3 seconds. That could be the difference maker of you getting your portal. So I highly, 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 highly recommend. As a tank, I'm doing it every time I possibly can in a pug scenario because I don't want anyone to assume anything. I want everyone to know exactly what page we're on. Hell, leave a note right here for Skarmarok or whatever. Hey, always start with skull. Technique, you did a strategy of like kill the first 2 immediately, then we'll kill the third. The healer will just deal with the debuff because your healer was okay with that. But in a pug, you may not feel the same way. Leave that note and everyone can discuss it before the run starts, so you're not doing it in the middle of a run. So that's my soapbox, sorry.
No, I think this is one of the coolest tools we have at our disposal, so.
Yeah, and thank you to whoever made it. All right.
That was me.
Anything else? Or are pugs all set up to be successful now?
I think this could help. I'd be interested if viewers have different advice they follow, that I might be missing, because I certainly would like to improve my pug game. But yeah, these are just things that I've repeatedly noticed that I think could be helpful. Yeah.
And again, the game is just, if you want the 10s, this will get you there.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, let's move on to the question of the week. Ioski asked us, do you think Blizzard should do a hero talent revamp before 11.2? Not sure why specifically 11.2, but okay. And either redesign...
God, because I think it'd be way too much whiplash if they did it before 11.1.
Well, no, but even then, wouldn't maybe wait till an expansion, but whatever. And either redesign or introduce completely new hero talent trees for classes that have underwhelming... I don't know why I cut off there, I'm sorry. Underwhelming performance and or, lackluster appearance. Thank you. I ask you for the question. And if you want to send us questions, mythicdungeonleague@gmail.com. So, do Blizzard need to maybe revisit some hero talent trees and do a overhaul to the degree where they maybe just need to nuke the whole thing and start it from scratch?
Not during the expansion, man. Just you did a kind of expansion gimmick. Ride it out, do something better next time, I think.
Okay.
That's just somebody who hates my fucking hero talents, so.
The problem is we don't have, none of us have tons of alts, but, is there any other than your current one that you see standing out as needing, oh man, I never see any of those?
No, I see some that I think are cool. I've heard that the Shadow Priest one has really cool effects and feels awesome. And I know there's this DK one, Riders of the Apocalypse, where you get on your horse all the time, you get all the riders with you, and it seems cool. And I just feel a little disappointed having a noisy bird that sucks, and then Pack Leader has 0 visual effects at all. So, to me, I don't really care. It doesn't bother me that much that my hero talents are lackluster. They're not actively making me hate myself in the game, I guess. I just hope that they do something more fun next expansion.
Okay. Shawnee?
I'd probably leave it how it is now. For a while. Maybe he's saying after what? A year in?
Well, let's
6 more months.
11.2 would be probably summer next year, right? Maybe not that late. Sorry, I'm
approaching a year into it.
We've been sitting here for a while. Another long episode.
Yeah,
by the time we finish this episode, they might redesign them.
I don't know about redesign. I would be apt to be get them on par with each other. I don't know if that needs a full redesign. I don't know. I'm just playing Ret and I enjoy both of them. I do wish that they were even, but I don't. Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm like okay with how it is, and then just like focus on the future instead of trying to constantly fix stuff. Like, make sure you do better later.
Yeah.
I guess would be my answer. So no, leave it as it is.
Technique?
And like,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, just leave it as it is and focus on the future.
Okay. Technique.
I think, in the case of like Prot Warrior, I like both the hero talent trees the way that they are. I think they're both applicable and both very good. I've personally fallen into the big guy one, whatever that's called, the
Colossus.
Juggernaut fucking Colossus thing. And I've liked it mainly because you get like a defensive and offensive ability. If you use it really well timed, you can like use your stance, your devastate as a, or demolish, whatever the fuck it's called, as a defensive. But anyway, yeah, I think it's good. I do think there are some classes and some abilities that could use like a little more sparkle, a little more like visual appeal. I don't think like a complete overhaul or like an addition needs to be happening. But I also think that they kind of are doing that. Like, didn't they just change Paladin hero trees quite a bit?
No, Paladin here. Their
talent
other
trees.
tree, their talent
Just regular
trees.
talents.
And even
Okay.
then,
I mean,
it
they
wasn't
did-
like a over.
yeah. It wasn't
Yeah, I don't-
insane.
I don't know that an overhaul is needed. I agree. If they're going to do that, it probably should be like expansion type of time, maybe.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that I don't think of a single hero talent that is so bad that it needs to be addressed before an expansion.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Like
If there is, the other one is an option. So
well, and let's say that there is obviously more to be desired. Scrap, you said there's more to be desired from yours.
yeah,
That doesn't require a huge overhaul. That just is like,
No.
if they fix the the cacaw to follow
Yeah,
the target, you probably would be like 90% happy.
yeah, I would be mechanically. I still feel like it's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Like bird does damage, I guess, but that's from a design standpoint. We don't need to talk about flexible development anymore than we did last week.
No. But
think-
like, do you think like if they changed it to the point where they said, hey, it does a little bit differently mechanically. That's not a huge overhaul, but that would be enough to say,
No.
okay, Shani, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I think there's other things in the game I'd rather see them fix or overhaul before the expansion.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the next expansion, then like a hair, like for me, like Technique said earlier, I would love some kind of like overhaul of like crafting system. I don't like it as it currently is. I haven't liked it for quite some time. So I'd rather them be like, yeah, halfway through they're like, yeah, we're gonna redo crafting, than worry
Well,
about Hero
I still feel
3.
like that would be an expansion because that's a huge
Yeah,
overhaul. Right?
I'm saying if I had to
But
pick,
that's what you'd rather, yeah.
yeah, like that to me, or like
player housing, maybe.
Yeah, player. They brought that out anytime. I'll pay
Just
whatever they
overhaul
need.
the situation. Everyone in the game is homeless right now.
I'm
Yeah.
taking a stance that I think 11.3, the major patch before the next expansion, will be player housing. That's my
Ugh.
foreshadow or my
Manifest, Frank. It's
yeah.
all about manifestation.
I'm telling you,
Okay.
man, it could be so good,
Do you know how many Brutosaurs they sold? Here it comes.
right?
All right. Yeah, I think we all agree. Like, just it's okay. There's none of them that are that bad, and even if they were, they probably would have addressed it by now. And leave it for expansion. It's what everyone gets super excited about with expansions, anyways. So save it for them. All right. MythicDungeonLeague.com. You can find us on Discord there if you want a community to pug with, but just keep in mind all the advice we gave you because we don't want people that are going to bring us down. We want to lift you up. You can follow us on Twitter at League Mythic, but I do want to call out, we are setting a date on our twitch.tv/MDLFrank for our big charity event. Shawnee, you've already locked in, got your day off work. Scrap doesn't care enough about the children to do that, but that's okay.
I'll be there at
Technique,
night.
I'm sure you'll be there as well. We are hoping to do, it won't be on the day of Extra Life, which is November 2nd, because that's my daughter's 3rd birthday. But we're going to do it 2 weeks later. God, I need to get out of here. My nose is just stuffing up. We're going to do a 24-hour stream. There will be, of course, a lot of WoW on it, but we'll have a lot of other games, including games that you can interact with us on stream. If you can't donate to the charity, but you do have a Prime sub, feel free to sub to us on that day, Any Prime subs that we get that day, we will donate on your behalf to the charity. So that way you can donate without having to donate. And we'd love to see you there. You'll get more information out from us on that probably in the coming weeks. But we hope to see you on the stream anyways. We've been getting more and more viewers and a lot more chat going, and I appreciate that. It's fun to do that while we raid and do keys. All right. Any final thoughts, Technique?
No.
All right. Scrapclaw.
Nice short episode this week.
Uh-huh. Shiny. People said they want these longer episodes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I wanted them.
Yeah, just be kind to your fellow gamers. That's my message of the week.
All right. Discord and MDT. That's my 2 points. That is episode 27 of Around the Mage Table. We appreciate it. I hopefully will feel better and not go hoarse next week. But until then, I hope everyone stays safe. Have a great Halloween, and we'll see you then. Take care.